Chapter 789. Battling the Eight Clans 2. What Yun Tian said piqued the interests of the ancestors from the 8 clans. Whether Yang Yutian was a fighter or Radiant Saint Master, there was already enmity between them from when he killed the competitors from their 8 clans. Though Yang Yutian could no longer remain at the Union, their resolution to eliminate him did not weaken at all. This was because all the competitors who had died in the artifact space were important members of the 8 clans and possessed very special statuses. This loss was a huge blow to the 8 clans, one that they would struggle to accept. They still had not completely confirmed that the Class 6 beast of antiquity Jianchun was the winged tiger god that the protector clans were looking for. They only held a grudge against Yang Yutian, which was why they used it as an excuse to pressure Yang Yutian and take the beast of antiquity in a justifiable way. One person immediately called out from the group of ancestors. Correct. The beast of antiquity of Yang Yutian's shoulder is the winged tiger god. He's protecting the god of the beast god continent, and even helped it grow. It's already severely threatened the safety of our continent. This is a treasonous act. Everyone execute the traitor. Let's all execute the traitor. The ancestors all called out together. With a blur, they arrived before Jianchun and attacked him simultaneously. Their hands were immediately enveloped in layers of thick world force as they swung them towards Jianchun. Jianchun's gaze was icy cold. The chaotic force in his dantian surged like a storm into the dragon-slaying sword, and the hazy light was immediately suppressed. It was soon replaced by a pretty, dark light that shot out from the sword and permeated the surroundings with a presence of destruction. The pupils of all the saint rulers present constricted. With a few flashes of light, the dragon-slaying sword was swung several times with lightning speed. The powerful sword chi collided with the world force-clad hands of the 8 clans saint rulers, directly nullifying their attacks. Everyone be careful, Yang Yutian's not weak. A saint ruler attacking Jianchun bellowed. Vast amounts of saint force violently surged from his body, condensing a huge, 3-meter-long sickle in his hand instantly. He had already produced his saint weapon. Shortly afterwards, the 4 other saint rulers that attacked Jianchun stopped taking the situation lightly and also condensed their saint weapons. Invisible world force quickly condensed around the weapons before they were raised and swung at Jianchun. Wherever the saint weapons passed by, the powerful energy ripples would cause space to distort, producing tiny cracks. Jianchun remained expressionless. With an unbelievable speed, he struck out 5 times with his ruler armament, colliding with the 5 saint weapons with extremely great power. Boom! 5 powerful booms rang out like one, exploding through the air like a strike of thunder. The violent energy wreaked havoc in the surroundings, tearing the space to pieces. The 5 saint rulers were knocked back by Jianchun's strikes and flew backwards for a whole 3 kilometers before regaining stability. Afterwards, a sliver of shock flashed across their eyes. 5th heavenly layer saint ruler. An ancestor of the 8 clans bellowed, while his gaze towards Jianchun was filled with disbelief. The president of the Radiant Saint Master Union, spectating from afar, also eyed Jianchun in absolute surprise. He was extremely shocked from Yang Yutian's strength. 2424, it must be him. I haven't seen him in so many years, but he's already grown to such a level. Inconceivable. The Grand Elder murmured beside the president. He was melancholic. Oh, how is Yang Yutian so powerful? Not only has he learned the 3 great radiant arts as a Class 6, Radiant Saint Master, he's also a very powerful fighter, a 5th heavenly layer saint ruler. Already hiding behind the president, Yun Tian became sheet white. He had actually had malice towards a 5th heavenly layer saint ruler. He only felt a wave of unsuppressible fear and great horror. He knew extremely well that experts like that could wipe him out like crushing an ant. But Yang Yutian has already offended the 8 clans and the Tsar family, and now he even carries a beast of antiquity that is suspected to be the winged tiger god. It's extremely possible that he'll attract the attention of the protector clans. So what if he's at the 5th heavenly layer? He's still doomed in the end. Arriving at this conclusion after some more thought, Yun Tian immediately relaxed slightly. Even Yun Tian himself could not confirm the white tiger's identity. However, With his envy and hatred for Jianchun, he would still find ways to name it the winged tiger god. Even if it was just a normal beast of antiquity, because then the 8 clans and the Tsar family would have the right to move against Jianchun. Even the Radiant Saint Master Union would not be able to protect Jianchun. This was because the winged tiger god was connected to matters that were just too important. Not far away, the 5 old men surrounded by the 4 protectors of the Bloodsword sect also gazed over. Their expressions was rather grim, and with a soft voice, one of them said, "I never thought that Jianchun would be able to display the strength of a 5th heavenly layer saint ruler, when he has a ruler armament." The 5 saint rulers that were knocked away by a single attack from Jianchun all looked at each other sternly. They too had not thought that Yang Yutian would be so strong. The 5 of them were only in the 3rd and 4th heavenly layers, and could not take on a 5th heavenly layer saint ruler. Jianchun did not pursue the people of the 8 clans. He collected his sword and stood straight, glaring at the 5 old men who had suddenly appeared. Powerful killing intent radiated from him without any form of concealment, and he yelled out coldly, "I will deal with our enmity later. Please allow me to first kill the murderers of my parents." With that, Jianchun used spatial force to fuse with the surrounding space. He shot towards the 5 old men with unbelievable speed in the form of a vague streak of light. A light flickered through the eyes of the ancestors, but they did not stop Jianchun. They could borrow the 5 old men to first confirm Jianchun's exact strength, as well as getting them to exhaust some of his strength to make it easier when they needed to deal with him. A 5th heavenly layer saint ruler was enough for the 8 clans to pay close attention to. This was because they did not know what powerful cards Jianchun was holding back. The 5 old men became rather ugly. Right now, not only did they need to fend off the 4 protectors, but they also had to deal with Jianchun, who was similarly strong. Their situation was extremely bad. 8 clans. That cub on Jianchun's shoulder is the winged tiger god that the protector clans are after. If you kill him and offer up the tiger to the protector clans, they definitely won't mistreat you. They'll definitely give you a saint tier battle skill as a reward. So why don't you hurry up and move? Do you want this deed to be accomplished by the Bloodsword sect instead? Old man Matting had quick wits, attempting to urge the 8 clans into dealing with Jianchun. They knew that if Jianchun worked with the 4 protectors, the 5 of them would struggle to leave here today. A gleam of light immediately flashed across the dozen or so members of the 8 clans' eyes. What old man Matting had said clearly tempted them slightly, and hesitation appeared on their faces. Pay for my mother and father's lives. Jianchun had already traversed several kilometers when he said that, quickly approaching the 5 old men. Clad in dense chaotic force, he thrust the dragon-slaying sword towards one of the people with lightning speed. The strike was ordinary. It did not contain any fancy technique, but it contained the powerful killing intent and flames of hatred Jianchun had hid in his heart for a very long time. That strike contained all of Jianchun's power. It was the strongest attack he could deal. As the sword cut through the air, the devastating chaotic force cut open the space, causing a black streak of light to appear in the space. The 5 old men looked at each other and nodded slightly. They then attacked Jianchun at the same time, attempting to kill him off with a single blow. As soon as they began to move, the 4 protectors also reacted. 4 balls of red light disappeared with a flash, and shot towards 4 of the people in the form of 4 long blood-red awls. Among these 4 people targeted by the protectors' attacks included the 2 most powerful, Old Man Situ and Matting, who had already reached the 6th heavenly layer. With no other choice, the 4 people could only give up on their attacks towards Jianchun, using all their strength to block the 4 protectors. To them, while Jianchun was very strong, also a 5th heavenly layer saint ruler, the threat of the 4 protectors was much greater than Jianchun. Old Man Situ and Matting, as well as 2 other old men, were kept busy by the 4 protectors, leaving behind just a single person to block Jianchun's attacks. The old man was not weak either, also being in the 5th heavenly layer. With a powerful roar, the giant sword in his 2 hands immediately began to shine with a dazzling light, and he swung it forwards with lightning speed, combining vast amounts of saint force and world force. Immediately, the space before him began to distort violently, and opened up a pitch-black crack. When the dragon-slaying sword collided with the old man's saint weapon, it was akin to the collision of two great energies. With a large boom, vast amounts of energy ripples burst forth, destroying the surroundings and forming a violent storm that wreaked havoc in the sky. Both Jian Chun and the old man were knocked backwards from the collision and the violent energy ripples. A cold light flashed across Jian Chun's eyes, and the chaotic force in his body immediately burst forth. It actually forcefully halted his retreating body before rushing at the old man again against the wind. The old man's expression changed slightly. Without the slightest hesitation, he lifted his saint weapon high up and swung it towards Jian Chun. Jian Chun had already arrived before the old man. He did not dodge the man's attack at all, and directly thrust the dragon-slaying sword, still glowing with a dark light, towards the old man's chest with an aura of destruction. A life for a life! The old man's expression changed slightly, and immediately recognized what Jian Chun was thinking. Soon afterwards a vicious light flashed across his eyes and he thought, "Jian Chun, you madman. Since you want to act madly, I'll act madly with you. Let's see who laughs in the end." The old man's giant sword chopped towards Jian Chun's shoulder with a great might, while Jian Chun's dragon-slaying sword pierced the old man's chest. Chapter 790, Battling the Eight Clans 3. The two of them had become completely wrapped up in taking each other's lives. It became extremely vicious, and they paid no attention to things that endangered their own lives. The old man's huge sword landed onto Jian Chun's shoulder. The powerful force directly turned Jian Chun's clothes to shreds, and even the fabric itself was annihilated. It revealed the golden silk mail made from the primordial god silk inside. In the end, the golden silk mail produced a vague golden light to block the blow. Jian Chun was completely unharmed. At the same time, the dragon-slaying sword in Jian Chun's hand pierced the old man's chest, reappearing on the other side. The destructive chaotic force burst forth from the dragon-slaying sword, rushing about like a dragon and wreaking havoc inside the old man. The old man's organs and bones were turned into smithereens wherever the chaotic force passed by. Spurt! The old man sprayed out a mouthful of blood and immediately paled. He glanced at Jian Chun in shock before immediately backpedaling without any hesitation. At the same time, he moved all the saint force in his body in an attempt to purge the chaotic force that was destroying everything. But how could chaotic force be eliminated so easily? Even though there was not much, the single strand of chaotic force was not something the weak saint force in his body could deal with. Even after expending all he had, the strand of chaotic force was only temporarily suppressed, unable to be eliminated in a short amount of time. This isn't saint force, nor is it world force. It's not any of the 6 elements either. Wow, what is this power? Why is it so powerful? The old man was overwhelmed by shock and revealed a great amount of fear in his eyes. He devoted almost all of his energy into suppressing the chaotic force, and as such his current capacity for battle was pitiful. Killing intent exploded in Jian Chun's eyes. With his parents' death flashing across his mind once again, the flames of pain and rage in his heart were converted to extremely dense killing intent. He stepped into the empty space, and immediately a ripple appeared. Afterwards, he disappeared before appearing before the old man once again. He thrust the dragon-slaying sword. The sword, combined with spatial force, was extremely fast. It arrived before the center of the old man's eyebrows instantly. The old man's pupils constricted abruptly. In the moment of life or death, he gave up suppressing the chaotic force in his body and used all of his energy to block Jian Chun's sword. Using all he had, he placed the giant sword in front of his body as fast as he could, using both his hands to support it to block his upper head. As the dragon-slaying sword collided with the wide sword face, the powerful force knocked the old man flying. Meanwhile, the strand of chaotic force in his body was freed from the suppression and moved about wildly. It wreaked havoc in his body, violently devastating all the energy in the old man's body. As the old man flew backwards, he constantly spat out blood, and his face became even paler. He had succeeded in blocking the life-threatening attack, but his injuries worsened in exchange. Jian Chun remained expressionless. His eyes were cold while killing intent shot into the sky from him. With a step, he fused with the surrounding space, Pursuing the old man once again with lightning speed, he thrust the sword once again in a simple fashion. It did not carry any special tricks. It was simply fast, accurate and vicious. This time, the old man no longer had any power to block the simple strike. In the end it entered the center of his eyebrows under his horrified gaze. The color in the old man's eyes quickly dissipated and became lifeless. At that very moment, a white ball of light flew out from his head, flying into the distance with lightning speed. It was the old man's origin soul. If the origin soul still remained, a saint ruler could not die. Jianchun was prepared for this long ago. In the very moment the origin soul flew out, the surrounding space suddenly froze. It trapped the origin soul there, completely immobilizing it. Even though he was a fifth heavenly layer saint ruler, he was extremely weak in the form of an origin soul, without a physical body. He did not even have the power to struggle in the frozen space. Swish! There was a sound of piercing air in the very moment the space froze. The dragon-slaying sword in Jianchun's hand shot out abruptly, and a sharp sword chi shot out from the very tip of the sword. It leapt across the space, striking the old man's origin soul. Bang! With a slight sound, the old man's origin soul was destroyed and vanished completely. He had been completely killed. This was how a powerful fifth heavenly layer saint ruler died. The ancestors who spectated the fight were all stunned. His strength truly made them rather fearful. To be able to kill a fifth heavenly layer saint ruler in such a short amount of time. However, they all knew very well that the reason why Jianchun could do this was not just because he was strong, but because he had the additional ruler armament and the golden silk mail. Jianchun would definitely not be able to display the strength of the fifth heavenly layer without the ruler armament, and if he didn't have the piece of mail that could block saint ruler attacks, he would not have been able to come out unscathed from the chop towards his shoulder. Even if his arm remained intact, he would be heavily injured. Why? Yang Yutian's actually killed a saint ruler. Witnessing this, Yun Tian, hiding behind the president, was absolutely terrified. His face was sheet white, without any trace of blood, while his whole body trembled gently. The president and the grand elder changed in complexion too as their gazes towards Jianchun experienced a large change. The remaining four old men all had extremely darkened faces. They were entangled with the protectors and unable to reach out to help their companion. They could only watch on helplessly as he was slaughtered. After killing a person, Jianchun's hatred did not decrease at all. With the dragon-slaying sword in his hand, he continued to the second fifth heavenly layer Saint King, working together with the protector of the Bloodsword sect to deal with him. It was impossible for the old man to do something like overcoming the strong as the weak. Becoming entangled with two opponents with similar strength, his pressure increased instantly, while his attempts to fend them off became more and more difficult. He was steadily losing ground. Boom! With a powerful rumble, Jianchun's three sword thrusts collided with the old man's ruler armament. The violent energy from the clashes sent the old man flying backwards. At this very moment, a red light flashed from behind him. It directly pierced through his chest, landing in the hands of the protector. It was a blood-red awl. The old man groaned and spat out a mouthful of blood. He immediately began to pale, while the flesh around where he was injured began to rot. Baleful force! The old man cried out. His expression was ugly. The baleful force of the Bloodsword sect was renowned throughout the continent. Not only could it erode the souls of people and kill without notice, it was extremely corrosive. If it was not immediately cleansed the moment it entered a wound, it would constantly eat away at the person's flesh. The old man had two opponents. Even when he gave it his all, he was in a disadvantageous position. There was no way he would have time to cleanse the baleful force. He had lost interest in battle with his wounds, and did not plan on staying any longer. Turning away, he flew off into the distance, wanting to escape. "You killed my parents. I will slaughter you all today in vengeance." Jianchun suddenly appeared in front of the old man, blocking his way, and his sword was directly thrust towards the center of the old man's eyebrows. The old man was grim. He used the saint weapon in his hand to block the dragon-slaying sword before fleeing in a different direction, not getting carried away with the fight at all. Jianchun's empty left hand suddenly formed a fist. The vast amounts of chaotic force in the fist began to condense before being swung out with lightning speed. The first combined Jian Chen's chaotic body with chaotic force. It was extremely powerful, such that the vicious strike shook up the space and caused the space ahead to become compressed. Bang! The fist landed heavily on the old man's waist, and a crack followed. His bones around the waist were directly shattered by Jian Chen's punch, while the powerful force knocked the old man flying towards the direction of where the protector was. The protector remained expressionless. The long awl in his hand turned into a red ball of light, stabbing towards the back of the old man's head with lightning speed. Thump! The awl entered the back of the old man's head, piercing through his brain and appearing from between the eyebrows. The old man's origin soul flew out from the head and traveled into the distance in panic. However, it did not get very far before its surrounding space froze up. A sharp sword chi with destructive intent shot out, dispersing the origin soul. It killed off the old man completely. Another fifth heavenly layer saint ruler had died. The deaths of the two companions dealt an extremely heavy mental blow to the remaining three old men. They all became extremely ugly. Retreat! Old man Matting bellowed. They no longer cared about completing the Tiger King's mission, taking advantage of the moment to flee into the distance. The four protectors had no intentions of letting them go. They all turned into streaks of red light to pursue, blocking the three people once more. They all became embroiled in a great fight once again. Two of the protectors dealt with Old Man Situ and Matting, the two sixth heavenly layer saint rulers. As for the other two protectors, they worked with Jian Chen to slaughter the final fifth heavenly layer saint ruler together. Their battle was extremely intense, tens of thousand meters above the city of God. The two protectors and Jian Chen working together killed the old man very quickly. In the blink of an eye, only two people remained from the original group of five. Both Old Man Situ and Matting became extremely grim. With gritted teeth, Old Man Matting called out, "We can't do anything more. If we don't leave now, it'll be too late. Blood escape." Old Man Matting sprayed out a mouthful of essence blood that turned into a cloud of red mist, enveloping him. Afterwards, he shot off into the distance with an unbelievable speed, disappearing instantly. It was much faster than the spatial force saint rulers used. Old Man Situ did not hesitate either. He too cast the same secret technique, fleeing in a red streak of light. He disappeared in the blink of an eye. They've cast a secret technique that cannibalizes on their own strength. They can't last very long. Pursue. A protector said coldly, before turning into a red light to chase in the direction the two old men fled off to. Afterwards, the three other protectors also ran off in that direction without any hesitation. Killing intent permeated Jian Chen's eyes. He fused with the surrounding space, using spatial force to travel. He too went off to pursue the two old men. At that very moment, three great sword flashes suddenly appeared in front of him, directly chopping down at Jian Chen. Jian Chen's complexion darkened, and his ruler armament immediately jabbed out, destroying the three sword flashes. However, with that obstruction, Jian Chen was forced to come to a stop. Three ancestors of the 8 clans floated right in front of him, blocking his path. "Yang Yutian, you should stay behind." An old voice spoke from behind. The dozen or so ancestors had gathered around him at the same time, trapping Jian Chen inside like an invisible net. Chapter 791. Battling the 8 Clans 4. Jian Chen's glare slowly swept across the dozen or so ancestors from the 8 clans, before looking in the direction that Old Man Situ and Matting had disappeared. His eyes were filled with unwillingness. Although he had already slaughtered 3 of his parents' murderers, the other 2 had escaped. If he did not massacre them all, Jian Chen could not recover from his hatred. 8 clans, Jian Chen murmured softly, his tone extremely cold. If the 8 clans did not obstruct him, how would Situ and Matting escape? He had already targeted all the hatred from being unable to avenge his parents towards the 8 clans. "Since you want me to stay behind, I'll stay behind and fight you all. I won't let you off easily, even if I die today," Jian Chen said gruffly while his presence roared into the sky. He was like a sword stabbed into the ground that separated the sky and earth. Not only did he feel absolutely no fear when facing up against a dozen or so saint rulers, he stood with a gushing aura, proud of his ability to battle. The people of the 8 clans all sneered to one after another. Although Jian Chen's strength in battle frightened them, they had over 10 people. They just did not believe Jian Chen was able to fend off a dozen or so saint rulers just by himself. This was because there was a few people who had exceeded the 5th heavenly layer among them. Jian Chen definitely would not be able to fight them. He also would not be able to flee, even with his protective treasure. Both the president and grand elder of the Radiant Saint Master Union produced a long sigh of helplessness. They really did not want to watch an unprecedented prodigy die just like that right in front of them, but it was involved with matters too important. Even if they wanted to help Jian Chen, they did not dare to. This was because if they interfered, the Radiant Saint Master Union might face obliteration. Although the Union was also a powerful force in the Holy Empire, they were nothing before the Protector clans. If the 10 clans wanted the Union to disappear from the continent, just casually sending a single clan was more than enough. Hiding behind the president, Yun Tian was absolutely frightened, but still secretly rejoiced. Jian Chen and the 8 clans of the City of God were like water and fire. He naturally loved seeing the two of them clash the most. If that happened, his future as the president of the Union would become unobstructed. 6 saint rulers moved against Jian Chen at the same time. As they had already personally witnessed Jian Chen's strength, they did not hold back at all, and started off with their full strength. The saint weapons in their hands caused the space to tremble with terrifying ripples of energy, as they all swung at Jian Chen from different directions. 6 saint weapons fell. They seemed to form something like a huge, invisible net surrounding Jian Chen that cut off all escape routes. Jian Chen gave out a long roar at the sky. He currently no longer bothered worrying about wasting chaotic force. The chaotic Naiden and his Dantian immediately began to vomit up large quantities of chaotic force. He then swung his ruler armament with all his strength at the 6 glowing sword shapes that fell at lightning speeds, blocking all 6 saint weapons. The 6 saint rulers were all 4th or 5th heavenly layer saint rulers. They were equally matched with Jian Chen in strength, so after the strike no one gained any advantage. At this very moment, another 3 saint rulers jumped into the mix with a blur. 2 of them swung their saint weapons as hard as they could at Jian Chen. Wherever the weapons passed by, the space would rip. The other person shot towards Jian Chen with a handful of world force before striking at him. Although he was not using a saint weapon, the palm strike's power was similarly huge and caused the surrounding space to distort as he passed by it. 6th heavenly layer. Jian Chen became extremely grim. In the moment the 3 of them struck out, he sensed that they were 6th heavenly layer saint rulers. Even with a ruler armament, he currently struggled to deal with people that strong. However, he did not become fearful at all. With a roar at the sky, the chaotic force inside his body violently surged into the dragon-slaying sword in his hands. The sword glowed with a dark light, turning into 3 masses of sword-shaped lights that shot towards the 3 people. The 2 saint weapons and the palm strike collided with Jian Chen's attack. A violent boom erupted. The saint weapons and the palm strike all paused slightly before continuing onwards, landing on Jian Chen's golden silk mail in the end. The silk mail immediately radiated with a dazzling golden light. It blocked the 3 6th heavenly layer saint rulers without Jian Chen being harmed at all. Seeing that, a sliver of surprise flashed across the 3 people's eyes. Their judgment of the golden silk mail's defense improved, but they did not hesitate at all. The 2 saint weapons were swung at Jian Chen once again while the hand grabbed the golden silk mail, attempting to remove it from him. "You want to take my things? Don't you dare." Killing intent exploded in Jian Chen's eyes. He did not pay any attention to the 2 saint weapons swinging towards him, immediately thrusting out the dragon slayer sword in attempt to end the saint ruler, who attempted to take his piece of armor. The saint ruler was the ancestor of the Ho clan. Vast amounts of world force gathered before him. His hand on Jian Chen's armor disappeared as he directly pushed forwards with his left hand. The extremely compressed world force immediately shot towards Jian Chen in an attempt to block Jian Chen's ruler armament. Jian Chen's first 3 consecutive thrusts dispersed the world force rushing towards him, while the 4th strike directly shot towards the person's head. The ancestor tilted his head and just managed to dodge the attack. However, the dragon-slaying sword left behind a bloody mark on his head, where a sliver of chaotic force was embedded. It immediately transformed into an unreined wild horse, surging into his head to begin wreaking havoc. Bang! Bang! At the same time, the 2 other saint weapons landed on Jian Chen's back. It was blocked by the silk mail, but the violent energy still knocked Jian Chen backwards. God damn it, what is this energy? With his face cut, the ancestor of the Ho clan immediately gave out a terrified cry. The sliver of chaotic force from the dragon-slaying sword had already wormed into his brain and was currently wreaking havoc to his nerves. It was not much, but it was extremely powerful and filled with the aura of destruction, and just happened to be in the weakest part of the human body, the brain. It prevented the ancestor from controlling the saint force in his body to purge it. He could only watch on helplessly, as that small sliver of chaotic force destroyed his brain. With the constant destruction of his nerves in his brain, a powerful pain followed. It caused the person's muscle to constantly twitch and jerk. Crap, the energy's coming for the origin soul. Suddenly, the Ho clan ancestor's expression changed significantly. After a slight hesitation, he clenched his teeth and his origin soul immediately broke out. He actually fled off after discarding his body. Seeing how the Ho clan ancestor had actually fled as an origin soul, the saint rulers who had yet to join in on the fight were immediately astounded. The other saint ruler from the Ho clan immediately appeared before the origin soul, in a flash to protect it. Yang Yutian's defensive treasure is too powerful. We can't break through it at all. At that moment, the other 6th heavenly layer saint ruler called out, "Let me deal with him. I want to see limit of his defensive treasure. Can it block a blow from an 8th heavenly layer saint ruler?" An old man in flame-red robes replied and walked forwards. With a sway, he arrived before Jian Chen and opened his hands. A ball of blue flames immediately roared between his hands, before being struck towards Jian Chen's chest with lightning speed. He sneered, "Yang Yutian, remember my name. I am Eros of the Fire God clan. I will be taking the life of an unprecedented prodigy today." Jian Chen's silk mail gave off a dazzling glow, resisting against the scorching blue flames between the old man's hands. However, after less than a second the glow from the silk mail was suppressed, allowing Eros to land a firm strike on Jian Chen's body. With a muffled cough, Jian Chen's complexion immediately became rather pale. Eros' strength was already at the peak of the 8th heavenly layer, far beyond Jian Chen's strength. Not only did a single strike of his break through the golden silk mail's light barrier, it even injured Jian Chen's chaotic body. What a powerful body! A casual strike of mine can only slightly injure you. A sliver of marvel appeared in Eros' eyes. Soon afterwards, he abruptly clenched his hands, and the space around Jian Chen instantly froze. Afterwards, with a pulling motion of his hands, Jian Chen, who was originally knocked flying backwards, was pulled towards Eros at an extremely fast speed. The chaotic force in Jian Chen's body surged violently, attempting to break free from the frozen space. However, due to the huge disparity between their strengths, Jian Chen could not escape despite having tried every inch of space around him. He could only watch helplessly as he quickly approached Eros. "Yang Yutian, I want to see if you can survive a second strike from me," the old man sneered, and another ball of scorching flames appeared between his hands to once again be struck against Jian Chen's chest with lightning speed. Spurt! Jian Chen spat out a mouthful of blood, as he was sent flying off into the distance like a cannonball. The power of the silk mail did not activate this time. Without its protection, he received the full brunt of the strike from an 8th heavenly layer saint ruler. He was heavily injured, and even his chaotic body was broken through. Jian Chen shot backwards for several kilometers before finally coming to a stop. He hung in the air pale-faced while his glare towards Eros was completely filled with killing intent. Inside his body, the severe wound from Eros was currently healing at an extremely fast rate. The difference in strength between the 8th heavenly layer and the 5th heavenly layer was just too vast. It could not even be described as a huge chasm, With the dragon-slaying sword, Jianchen could battle 5th heavenly layer saint rulers, and even kill them. But currently against one that was at the 8th heavenly layer, he did not even have the power to counterattack. Seeing how not only did Jianchen took a strike with 90% of his power without dying, but he still possessed the power to remain in the air, Eros was no longer able to stay calm. He displayed disbelief as he cried out with a gruff voice, "What is this body? It's actually countless times more powerful than that of a beast of antiquity." Chapter 792. The saint artifact breaks free with a trail of blood flowing from the corner of his lips. Jianchen eyed the dozen or so saint rulers coldly. He had already switched to wielding the dragon-slaying blade with his 2 hands, with chaotic force steadily pouring into the sword. He knew that it was going to be very difficult for him to flee today. He did not have the ability to escape from an 8th heavenly layer saint ruler. The only choice he had was a fight to the death. 8 clans, even if I die today, you won't be having it easy. Jianchen's voice was extremely cold. The dragon-slaying sword was already radiating with extremely bright dark light, and the presence of destruction became more and more powerful, forced into dire straits. Jianchen no longer held back in consuming large amounts of chaotic force for his most powerful strike. As the chaotic force steadily streamed into the dragon-slaying sword from his dantian, his thumb-sized chaotic niden also shrank at a visible rate. The chaotic niden was the fountain of Jianchen's power. If the niden dispersed due to overuse of chaotic force, Jianchen would lose the usage of chaotic force. Feeling the ever-increasing energy of destruction in the ruler armament, the ancestors of the 8 clans all became rather grim. Immediately someone bellowed, "We can't let him continue like this. Senior Eros, it'd be best if you quickly finished Yang Yutian off completely before anything happens." Eros said indifferently, "No problem. Although Yang Yutian's power is weird, he's too weak. He can only display the strength of a 5th heavenly layer saint ruler, even with a ruler ornament. He's not a threat to me. Just let me see what Yang Yutian's final card is, and how powerful it is." Eros eyed Jianchen as a sliver of vague disdain appeared. He said coldly, "Yang Yutian, I give you one chance to attack. After that, I will be taking your life." Jianchen said nothing in reply. He controlled all the chaotic force in his dantian, pouring it into the sword. As the large quantities of chaotic force was consumed, the chaotic niden in his dantian also quickly shrank, from being thumb-sized at the beginning to being the size of a soybean. The dragon-slaying sword in Jianchen's 2 hands was already enveloped in a powerful layer of chaotic gas, completely shrouding the sword. The extremely powerful energy ripples pressed against the space, causing it to distort as black cracks constantly appeared. Crack. Suddenly, there was a sudden rupturing sound. Jianchen immediately narrowed his eyes. Although he was unable to see it, he could clearly feel that a tiny crack had formed on the sword. The amount of chaotic force gathered in the sword had already exceeded what the ruler armament could endure. A sliver of ruthlessness flashed across Jianchen's eyes. He did not stop, and instead forced the chaotic force to surge into the sword even more violently. The power of the sword increased even more. With constant cracking sounds, the cracks on the sword grew closer. Just as they covered a small portion of the sword, Jianchen finally struck out with the attack he had charged up for a long time. He wielded the sword with 2 hands and raised it high up above his head, before slashing down with the power to split mountains. The sword ripped through space easily, annihilating the void. Before the slash, space was as weak as tofu, ripped to a point where it could not mend up easily. Shortly afterwards, a huge sword ray completely condensed from vast amounts of chaotic force broke free from the sword, shooting out as a terrifying sword chi. The slash was not just Jianchen's strongest strike, but it also contained a large portion of the chaotic force in his body. The slash was so powerful that it completely exceeded the 9th heavenly layer in terms of strength, such that even the ruler armament was unable to endure it. The huge sword chi rushed forwards with the aura of destruction, enveloping all the saint rulers of the 8 clans. It overwhelmed them with shock. "God damn it! Work together to block it!" Eros cried out, calling all the saint rulers to work together in resisting it. Currently, they were all extremely ugly in the face. The power of Jian Chen's slash had completely exceeded their expectations. They could not understand how Jian Chen was able to produce such a powerful strike, no matter how they thought. Even they were unable to hit so hard. Over 10 people raised their hand to form a barrier. In the very moment the barrier was formed, the giant sword qi collided loudly with it. It began trembling violently before being shattered very quickly. Spurt! A mouthful of blood sprayed from the saint rulers' mouths. The power of the slash was formed from a large portion of Jian Chen's chaotic force, so its strength had reached a terrifying level. It had completely exceeded the 9th heavenly layer, and was on par to a strike from a saint king. Eros was the most powerful among them, and the only person at his level. They were unable to block it even when they worked together. The great sword qi shattered the barrier like a hot knife through butter, and shot towards the saint rulers. They were completely unable to dodge it. In that crucial moment, a giant palm suddenly appeared. Like a wall hanging in the sky, it stood before the saint rulers and protected them. Boom! The giant sword qi condensed from chaotic force collided with the palm, and caused a great rumble. The great ripples of energy wreaked havoc in the region, destroying the space and sucking everything into a pitch-black void. The palm was like an impenetrable shield. It completely blocked the sword qi attack, saving all the saint rulers of the 8 clans. In the end, the sword qi's energy was all consumed, and it disappeared in midair. Afterwards, the giant palm also slowly faded away before fully dissipating. It revealed a blue-robed old man, and a purple-robed, middle-aged woman in a posture with her hand extended. We greet the 2 seniors. As soon as they say the 2 people appear, the saint rulers all knelt down in the sky. Their faces were filled with respect. The woman slowly pulled back her slender hand and looked around uncaringly. She said with a cold voice, "I never thought that during a visit to the protector clans the city would turn into such a mess. If I didn't get back in time, perhaps you would all have been doomed." "It's exactly as the way Senior has put it. We thank the Senior for saving us," the ancestors all said. A sliver of paleness appeared on their faces. The strike from before had frightened them all, causing them to experience a moment of life or death that had not happened to them for many years already. The woman eyed Jian Chen before seeing the white tiger on Jian Chen's neck. Her interest was piqued, and she said indifferently, "You must be Yang Yutian?" Jian Chen said nothing. He felt extremely grim. The woman had easily blocked the attack that had consumed most of his chaotic force. So without a doubt she was a Saint King, and one of the strongest Saint Kings there was at that. "Senior, he is Yang Yutian," a Saint ruler said with a gentle voice from behind her. "I didn't think you'd actually be a fighter as well. But no matter what you are, you need to leave behind the beast of antiquity that might be the winged tiger god." As soon as the woman finished speaking, the space around Jian Chen immediately froze. The frozen space was much tougher than any other ones he had encountered in the past. It seemed to have become a block of extremely tough essence iron, tightly trapping him inside. He could not even move a finger. The woman appeared before Jian Chen without a sound, and extended her white, slender hand towards the white tiger. Boom! At this very moment, a violent rumble suddenly resounded in the distance. The sound was thunderous and earth-shaking, causing the entire city to tremble violently. The woman's hand reaching towards the white tiger was forcefully stopped midair. She turned her head abruptly towards the Union headquarters, while her indifferent eyes narrowed. The sudden sound had attracted everyone's attention. The president and grand elder also turned their heads towards the origins of the sound, and to no surprise, towards where the Union headquarters was. Suddenly, the president's expression changed greatly. He cried out, "It's the Saint Artifact! Crap, the Saint Artifact's come out!" With that, a golden streak of light shot over from the distance. It directly landed into Jian Chen's hand. It was a golden tower, only 3 inches in height. "It's the Saint Artifact! It's the Saint Artifact of our Union! Why has the Saint Artifact come out?" The president's expression changed greatly, and stared at it in disbelief. The woman was also stunned by the sudden change to the situation. However, she returned to her senses soon after and stared at the palm-sized golden tower that had flown by itself into Jian Chen's hand. A weird light flashed across her eyes, and she immediately extended her right hand towards it. As soon as her hand approached it, a rather large fist suddenly appeared out of nowhere and directly flew towards the woman. Her expression changed greatly, and her hand reaching towards the tower halted. It accepted the punch with a thick layer of world force. Bang! With a sudden thunder-like sound, the fist collided with the woman's hand, causing the surrounding space to shake violently. After the strike, the woman's face changed abruptly. She immediately shot backwards and stared at the fist in shock. She cried out, "Ninth heavenly layer Saint King." A bare-chested, middle-aged man slowly appeared. He was burly, wide and thick, and his body radiated with a certain aura of toughness. He glanced at the woman indifferently before losing interest. Raising his head at the sky before quickly lowering it to look at the ground, he became more and more excited. He trembled gently and said with a shaking voice, I'm out, I'm finally out. I've finally returned to my ancestors' world." The middle-aged man was the strongest magical beast within the artifact, the 300-meter-long golden divine dragon. After the man, another dozen or so figures slowly emerged into the sky. They all radiated with a bold aura, pressuring the saint rulers present to the point where they struggled to breathe. "Finally out, we're finally out. From now onwards, we're free. We don't need to be trapped in that bloody space any longer. I've finally come out. I'm free. I've finally returned to the world where my ancestors came from." The Class 8 magical beasts that were just liberated from the artifact space produced earth-shaking roars at the sky. Their voices were filled with emotion, and a few people had even began crying. Those were the tears of joy. The woman's face became extremely ugly, and she cried out softly, "Why have over 10 Saint Kings appeared here? One of them is even in the 9th heavenly layer. No, that's not right. This isn't the presence of humans. They're actually all high-class magical beasts." The woman immediately became rather pale. At the same time, the Tiger King, who was currently resting on a small island in the Northern Ocean, stood up abruptly. He stared in the direction of the Tian Yuan continent with glowing eyes and said, "Why have the presence of a dozen or so Class 8 magical beasts appeared suddenly? Who are they?" Chapter 793. Escaping from the City of God. In the City of God, the ancestors of the 8 clans and the middle-aged woman from the Tsar family floated in mid-air, stunned. The sudden appearance of the presence of over 10 Class 8 magical beasts dealt a very powerful psychological blow to them. A Class 8 magical beast was equivalent to a human Saint King. In addition, due to their innate abilities, these magical beasts would be extremely tough in battle with very few humans at a similar level that could be their opponents. The sudden appearance of a dozen or so Class 8 magical beasts was equal to a dozen or so Saint Kings, and one of them had even reached the very peak of Class 8. A group like this was capable of making even the Protector clans feel frightened. Together they were more powerful than any single Protector clan. So if the clans wanted to deal with them, they would have to work together. "Are you from the Beast God continent? Haven't the 10 Protector clans come to an agreement with your Tiger Emperor, where you can't enter the continent for the next 3 months? Why would you break the agreement so soon?" The woman from the Tsar family growled. Even she felt fear before so many Class 8 magical beasts. The liberated magical beasts all roared at the sky carefreely. Their voices were filled with joy, as if they were venting all the grievances of thousands of years. Their ancestors were all sucked into the saint artifact in the ancient times. After countless years, their ancestors had reproduced and given birth to generations and generations, all of whom lived in the artifact space. They matured and became powerful before finally dying in there. All their ancestors knew that the sky outside was vaster, but they could do nothing as they were unable to break free from the bindings of the artifact and escape. As a result, escaping to the outside world was basically the lifelong dream of every high-class magical beast inside. And finally, this dream which they had carried for so long came true. It filled all of them with unconcealable joy, to the point that they all could not help but tear up. Not only was this day a day they had anticipated for a very long time, it was the greatest wish of their ancestors. They had yearned for this day for far too long. A long while later, the magical beasts finally calmed down and looked around curiously to explore this world. The golden divine dragon in human form looked at the woman and could not help but remember what the woman had said. He asked, "What did you say? What beast god continent?" "You're not magical beasts from the beast god continent." The woman displayed a weird light before glancing at the saint artifact in Jian Chen's hand. "The beast god continent." The dragon murmured to himself, but there was a sliver of confusion in his eyes. This was because there was nothing about a beast god continent in his inherited memories. When his ancestor was first sucked into the artifact space, the winged tiger god had yet to attack the 100 races with all the magical beasts under his command. At that time, the beast god continent was still the 100 races territory. The golden dragon glanced at the two people behind him and sighed emotionally. "With so many years, it looks like the world's changed greatly. It's no longer the world remembered by our ancestors." The two people behind him were the mutated divine alligator and scorching divine phoenix in human forms. They took the appearances of a black-robed old man and a red-clothed young woman. The alligator and phoenix's gazes became rather complicated. They were very excited with their return to their home world. But after calming down, they instead felt like they had come to an extremely unfamiliar world. A lonesome and depressed light also flashed across the phoenix's eyes. However, she hid it very quickly and said, "The energy of the world here is much richer than inside the artifact. I reached the peak of the 8th heavenly layer 300 years ago, so I'm just a step away from the 9th. I need to find a place to go into seclusion immediately." Shortly afterwards, the phoenix glanced at the white tiger on Jian Chen's shoulder, and a sliver of surprise flashed across her eyes. Afterwards, she eyed the golden tower in Jian Chen's hands and said, "Artifact spirit, I've already helped you break the ancient vow. According to our agreement, you will no longer restrict us of our freedom. Hong Lian will be bidding farewell first." With that, the phoenix glanced at the white tiger one last time, before disappearing as a red streak of light. The dragon looked towards the winged tiger god on Jian Chen's shoulder, his expression filled with complexity. He said, "I never thought I'd meet a winged tiger god the moment I came out. It's a pity it's too weak." The dragon sighed and murmured, "After so many years, I wonder if my clansmen are still around. I need to go to the dragon clan." According to my inherited memories, the dragon clan's positioned on an island in the ocean. The dragon clan? Are you talking about the dragon clan of the 4 ancient great magical beast clans? The woman asked in surprise. The dragon's interest was piqued. He looked at the woman with glowing eyes and asked, "You actually know about my dragon clan? How is the dragon clan right now?" The woman immediately gasped upon gaining confirmation. Her gaze towards the dragon experienced an extremely great change, and she said, "The dragon clans ceased existing very, very long ago. They've vanished. Including the ancient divine phoenix clan, they've all vanished. The beast god continent not had a dragon or divine phoenix clan for a long time." "What? Vanished? How is that possible?" The dragon stared blankly, while a sliver of disbelief appeared in his eyes. According to his inherited memories, his dragon clan was an extremely powerful clan, the emperors of the magical beasts. The woman was now completely certain of the Class 8 magical beasts' identities. She said, "I do know a little about the matters of the ancient times. Apparently, the dragon clan and the divine phoenix clan disappeared at the same time, as well as the ancient winged tiger god. Vanished. My dragon clan's already vanished." The dragon displayed indescribable pain and loneliness. When he heard what the woman had said, he reacted like he had just lost all of his relatives. "I want to go back to Dragon Island to have a look." The dragon murmured gently, "Ruijin, I'll go with you," the black-clothed old man said beside the dragon. The dragon nodded slightly. He was not familiar with a lot of people from the artifact space, only 2. They were the scorching divine phoenix who had just departed, and the mutated divine alligator beside him. Suddenly, the dragon's expression changed slightly. 2 rays of light immediately shot out from his eyes, piercing the fabric of space, and he growled, "Crap, there's quite a few experts currently tearing open the space. They seem to be from the 10 protector clans of the Tianyuan continent. According to my memories, The ancient magical beasts were oil and water with the humans. We hated each other, so we definitely can't let them come. With my race's abilities, I can seal up the space within a radius of 10 million kilometers, so that they can't tear through it. Everyone quickly dispersed during this time. The dragon suddenly began to glow with an extremely powerful light. It illuminated the entire space, dyeing the world golden. It formed a miraculous scene rarely seen, even in several millennia, above the city of God, stunning countless people below. The golden light that illuminated the surroundings all gathered into his two hands, and they quickly changed into different seals with the light. As the hands moved, the surrounding space seemed to become something like a heart, beating with a rhythm. Dragon Clan secret technique Worldlock. The golden dragon cried out and produced a seal from his hands, shoving it at the empty void. Immediately a few slight, wondrous changes occurred to the space in a radius of 10 million kilometers, as if it had turned into a separate domain with different laws of the world in that very moment. The woman and the saint rulers all reacted greatly. They felt like they could no longer control spatial force, not even to simply move it. At that moment it seemed like they were forcefully ripped away from the laws of the world, and no longer in the world they were in before. What is this ability? Why is it so terrifying? They were all overwhelmed by shock. They had never even heard of an ability that could influence the laws of the world, much less witness it themselves. Even saint emperors were probably not capable of this. With my secret technique, I've sealed the space within a radius of 10 million kilometers. It can only last for 10 seconds. Everyone leave quickly, the dragon said to his companions behind him. The Class 8 magical beasts did not hesitate at all. They all ripped open the space to create space gates, traversing an extremely great distance with a single step. They departed from the city of God. Farewell, artifact spirit. I hope we never meet again in the future. The dragon spoke towards the saint artifact with gritted teeth, with a voice that still carried some anger. It was impossible to not have any hatred towards the artifact spirit after being trapped for thousands of years. However, he understood that the artifact spirit too was bounded by the ancient vow, and that he had his own miseries. Rue Jin, the overlord's currently in great danger. You might as well take him along with you when you leave. The artifact spirit's voice appeared in the dragon's head. All right, I'll help you this time. The dragon gnashed his teeth. Afterwards, with a swing of his hand, space was ripped open to form a space gate. As soon as the space gate formed, Jian Chun experienced an powerful, irresistible force wrap around him that sent him into the space gate. Seeing Jian Chun flee, the woman immediately became anxious. Just when she wanted to chase after him, she saw the dragon in the corner of her eyes and immediately suppressed the impulse in her heart. The Saint Artifact. Yang Yutian, return the Saint Artifact to us. The president of the Radiant Saint Master Union became unsettled as he watched Jian Chun disappear into the space gate. The Saint Artifact was the treasure of the Union. It was extremely important, and if he lost the artifact, the Union would no longer have any meaning for its existence. The reason why they were able to gather almost all the high-class Radiant Saint Masters of the continent was because the Union possessed the Saint Artifact, possessing the secret to reaching Class 7 at the same time. This was why they had their current status. Hey you, we should also go. After sending Jian Chun off, the dragon ripped open the space again to create a space gate before departing with the mutated divine alligator. In the blink of an eye, the dozen or so Class 8 magical beasts that had come out of the artifact all departed. No one knew where they went, and even Jian Chun, amidst a disaster, escaped under the help of the dragon, taking away the Saint Artifact of the Union with him. With the artifact taken away, all the people from the Union darkened in complexion. Even the Grand Elder, who originally viewed Jian Chun extremely importantly, became ugly, as the artifact was just too important to the Union. They definitely could not afford losing it. Chapter 794. The artifact takes a master. After a few seconds, the surrounding space began to ripple violently like the ripples of a lake. Soon afterwards, 11 spatial cracks suddenly opened up, quickly forming space gates. Immediately many people stepped out, all from the 10 protector clans and mercenary city. To no surprise, the person leading the mercenary city group was Tianjian, the grand elder of the city. Suddenly another crack opened up. An old man in simple clothes walked out. He was by himself, but despite his appearance no one present dared to belittle him. Even the strongest people from the 10 protector clans looked at the old man seriously. Bloodsword sect master, Xiao Houston. I never thought you'd come too. Tianjian smiled at the old man. The presences of over 10 class 8 magical beasts suddenly appeared. As a human, is there a principle where I don't come for something so important? Houston said expressionlessly. His voice was very calm. However, he was far from the calmness he displayed inside. What's happened here? Why did the presences of over 10 class 8 magical beasts suddenly appear here? An ordinary-looking middle-aged woman asked. She was the pavilion master of the Pure Heart Pavilion. And this region of space seemed to be sealed by a mysterious power just then. My space gate was unable to connect here, which delayed me very much. Otherwise, those magical beasts would definitely not have been able to flee so quickly, said a middle-aged man. He too was an expert from the 10 protector clans. The middle-aged woman from the Tsar family did not hide anything at all. She narrated everything that had happened before in detail, and did not even hide the news about the winged tiger god. What? The winged tiger god is with a junior who's both a fighter and a radiant saint master? How can people be radiant saint masters and fighters at the same time? Hearing that, the 10 protector clans all questioned it immediately. This was because on the Tianyuan continent, a fighter could not be a radiant saint master, and a radiant saint master could not be a fighter at the same time. This was an almost undebatable fact, as no one had ever appeared as both of them, not even during the ancient times. I'd never think that all the Class 8 magical beasts trapped in the Radiant Saint Master Union's artifact would all come out at once. This is something extremely bad for our continent. If they work together with the experts of the Beast God continent, then the Beast God continent will power up significantly. The speaker was an ancestor of the Changyang clan, Changyang Qingyun. Let's not talk about these matters first. Finding the winged tiger god is the priority. We can't let the experts of the Beast God continent obtain it before us, or after it reaches its peak it'll be the end of our Tianyuan continent, another person said. Why don't we work together and search the entire continent with a secret technique? We'll find his whereabouts. Another suggested. Afterwards, a Saint King stood out from each of the protector clans. Pooling their strength together, they cast a secret technique to search the entire continent. The mercenary city group did not participate in it. The Grand Elder Tianjian floated in the space as he watched the people cast the technique, and he was rather anxious inside, scared of them finding where Jian Chun was. Houston also worried. He treated Jian Chun as his successor, and even watched on personally as Jian Chun matured to such a level from an Earth Saint Master with a broken Saint weapon. He naturally did not wish for Jian Chun to die young, as an unprecedented prodigy. This was because he knew very well that if Jian Chun successfully made it all the way, his achievements would definitely not be any lower than his own. Jian Chun could even exceed him, becoming a second Saint Emperor on the continent. The search went on for roughly half an hour before finally ending. However, the people who did the searching all displayed rather ugly expressions. One of them said, "We've already searched the entire continent, but we can't find the presence of the winged tiger god. However, we found some Class 8 magical beasts from the artifact space." Hearing that, all the people of the 10 protector clans darkened in complexion, while both Tianjian and Houston relaxed slightly. Since we can't find the winged tiger god, why don't we slaughter all those Class 8 magical beasts who escaped from the artifact? It'll weaken the Beast God continent's force. An old woman suggested with a hoarse voice. We mustn't. If we kill those magical beasts, it might weaken the Beast God continent slightly, but it'll just fan the Beast God continent's flames of rage. It'll just speed up the war between the two continents. This would be extremely bad for us. Objections appeared as soon as the old woman put forward her suggestion. Correct. We, the Tianyuan continent, are weaker than the Beast God continent. It's disadvantageous to go to war against them early. We still need some buffering time. We can only fight them after we've condensed all the power we have. The priority is still finding the winged tiger god. Several millions of kilometers away from the Holy Empire, Jianchen currently sat on the ground in some grassy plains, moving about to look at the palm-sized golden tower. The craftsmanship of the tiny tower was extremely exquisite. There were a total of 9 floors, and was very pretty, glittering with golden light before him. So the artifact of the Union is like this. Though artifact spirit, why did you want to leave the Union? Jianchen moved the golden tower around as he looked at it, and spoke as if he was talking to himself. His injuries from the Saint Ruler of the 8 clans had already completely healed from the insane recovery rate of the chaotic body. Overlord, this one has already stayed in the Union for hundreds of thousands of years. I don't want to always remain in this world. This one is willing to follow the Overlord. I only wish to see vaster worlds. The artifact spirit's voice appeared in Jianchen's head. His tone was extremely sincere. Artifact spirit, you're smart for knowing to follow Master. Don't worry, Master's future accomplishments is immeasurable. Once Master becomes powerful, you'll be swimming in benefits. He'll only need to collect some materials to upgrade your artifact, and your strength will increase by 100-fold. Ziying's voice suddenly appeared. Jianchen could clearly feel the golden tower in his hand tremble extremely slightly, as if what Ziying had said caused the artifact spirit to become extremely excited. Artifact spirit, just how powerful are you right now? Can you assist me in fending off the experts of the 10 protector clans? Master, don't count on the spirit of this artifact. This artifact is not an offensive artifact, but rather a support one. Though it can be used to store some stuff, its ability to battle is pitiful. If you want it to fight enemies, it might not even be able to harm Master. Ziying's voice resounded in Jianchen's head. Hearing that, Jianchen immediately became slightly surprised. He did not believe it. How is this possible? Didn't the artifact spirit seal those Class 8 magical beasts? Why is it so weak? Overlord, you may not know, but this one is indeed a supportive artifact. My purpose is to convert the radiant saint force in the surroundings into origin energy. This one can display the strength of a saint emperor within the artifact space, but outside this one's strength is greatly reduced. It will be difficult for this one to fight a saint ruler, the artifact spirit said bitterly. Jianchen secretly sighed. Originally he planned on just using the artifact spirit to fend off the 10 protector clans, but now it seemed to all be imagination. Artifact spirit, why don't you hurry up and accept him as your master? Ziying's dignified voice resounded in the artifact spirit's head. Hearing that, the artifact spirit immediately jerked. After a slight hesitation, he took Jianchen as his master all by his own accord before disappearing into the center of Jianchen's eyebrows as a streak of golden light. It had already arrived in Jianchen's sea of consciousness, floating obediently between the sword spirits that were currently absorbing the multicolored stone. Master, now that this one has accepted you as my master, Master can place the winged tiger god into the saint artifact. The artifact spirit's voice appeared in Jianchen's head. With that, Jianchen hesitated slightly before finally placing the white tiger into the space, after seeing that the white tiger agreed. It was easier to conceal his identity this, and could help avoid quite a lot of trouble. With the artifact spirit submitting himself, Jianchen also finally relaxed slightly, now that the artifact followed him at all times. No matter where he went, reaching Class 7 was no longer a problem. He only needed to wait a year before the seal on the origin energy of Radiant Saint Force was released, allowing him to reach Class 7. Then he would possess the ability to revive the dead. Standing up, Jianchen fished out a set of tight blue robes and wore them. He then left after fitting himself like a fighter. 2 hours later, Jianchen had already traversed thousands of kilometers. He then entered a first-class city to buy a map, to find his way back home. As soon as he entered the city, Jianchen heard about the news of the search for the winged tiger god everywhere. Even ordinary people knew about the winged tiger god. Jianchen listened to the people's discussions about the tiger. As he walked towards the largest general store in the city, he bought the largest map available. I never thought I'd have come here. Jianchen immediately smiled bitterly after seeing the markings on the map. This was because he was currently in the Felicity Empire of the three great empires, already millions of kilometers away from the Holy Empire. Why have I come to somewhere so far away? It's terrible. Without a space gate, I have no idea how much time I'd need to spend on the road before I get back to the Jessen Kingdom. Jianchen smiled bitterly, immediately pained by the thought. Whatever. Let's see if I can find a space gate first or not. Jianchen put the map away and left the city to see if he could find a space gate and leave the empire with it. It would save a lot of traveling time. 3 days later, Jianchen flew in the sky towards a rather powerful sect that he had learned of. He wanted to see if there was a public space gate anywhere nearby. At that very moment, the space in front of him cracked open, and a space gate quickly formed. A white-robed, middle-aged man stepped out. Senior. Seeing the man, Jianchen immediately rejoiced. It was Tianjian, the Grand Elder of Mercenary City. Chapter 795. Eve of departure. Tianjian had come all by himself. He seemed like an ordinary person, but his white clothes seemed to give off a celestial aura. The wind was violent high up in the sky, causing his robes to be buffeted about wildly and his long, black hair to float in the air. Tianjian looked at Jianchen with a complicated look. I never thought you'd actually come to somewhere so far away. Jianchen, it's fortunate that I still left that mark on you, or finding you really wouldn't have been easy. Jianchen, now that the 10 protector clans are searching the entire continent to find you, it's no longer suitable for you to stay on the Tianyuan continent. You should quickly leave. Hearing that, Jianchen's expression changed slightly. He said hurriedly, Senior, the white tiger now has somewhere to hide. There's no worry for it being found anymore. Also, the Tianyuan continent is huge. If I hide well, it'll be very difficult for them to find me. The place of hiding you mentioned must be the saint artifact of the Radiant Saint Master Union. Tianjian stared deeply at Jianchen. Currently, the shock in his heart brought on by Jianchen was only increasing. Not only did he earn the companionship of the winged tiger god, forming an extremely deep bond with the tiger since it was young, even the barrier spirit of Mercenary City, that rarely appeared, seemed to have a mysterious, unknown bond with him. And now, even the saint artifact that had existed for countless years in the Union followed Jianchen on its own accord. This type of behavior seemed to tell Tianjian that the young man in front of him could not be compared to other, ordinary prodigies. Jianchen nodded. Senior's correct. It's indeed the artifact space. The protector clans shouldn't be able to find him if the tiger stays in there. No, it's not as simple as you think. Tianjian gently shook his head. Jianchen, you once stayed at the Union, so you should understand what the saint artifact means to them. Now that you've taken away the saint artifact, you've basically stolen the lifeblood of the Union. In the future, those searching for you probably won't just be the protector clans. The Union won't let you go either, because the artifact's just too important to them. Jianchen said nothing. How could he not understand what Tianjian was saying? It was just that the saint artifact's help was currently too valuable to him. Not only was it his only hope to reach Class 7, it was where the white tiger hid. It was indeed extremely difficult for Jianchen to now return the artifact. Also, the artifact now had a consciousness. It had its own thoughts. And it was the artifact itself that wanted to follow him. It had even taken him on as a master. Jianchen would struggle to do it even if he wanted to return it. The figures of the president and grand elder flashed across Jianchen's eyes. He could not help but feel rather ashamed and uneasy. Not only did he fail their expectations, he even created an extremely big problem for the Union. President, Grand Elder, in the future Jianchen will definitely make a compensation of several-fold for your losses, Jianchen thought. Jianchen, the saint artifacts already existed with the Union for countless years. Even I have no idea if the Union has any way to search for the artifact, and the protector clans are already using the entire continent's power to search for you. They've also already collected drawings of you. So perhaps in the not-so-distant future those images will spread throughout the continent. When that time comes, the The Tianyuan continent is no longer somewhere you can stay. Senior, what should I do? Do I really have to leave the continent? Even if I leave, the experts of the Beast God continent will come searching for me as well. Jianquan's heart was extremely heavy. After some thought, Tianjian mumbled, perhaps there's only one more place you can go now. Only that place can protect you from both the Protector clans and the Beast God continent. Where's that? Jianquan asked curiously. To the sea race, Tianjian said slowly. The sea race of the 4 ancient races? Jianquan asked in astonishment. Tianjian nodded and confirmed. Correct, the sea race of the 4 ancient races. Today, only the sea race possesses the power that can cause both the Protector clans and the Beast God continent to become fearful. This is because the sea god of the ancient times is still not dead. 1,000 years ago, I sensed the presence of the sea god. He's still alive. Hearing that, Jianquan jerked violently. He was greatly shocked and unsettled. The 4 champions of the ancient times were the strongest human, Mo Tianyan, the ancient winged tiger god, the war god of the ancient 100 races, Ergens, and the sea god of the sea abyss. The 4 of them were all at a level where all forms of life could look up to, existences that had surpassed Saint Emperor. Jianquan, I'll take you back. You can't stay any longer on the Tianyuan continent. I'll send you off after you handle the miscellaneous matters you need to deal with. Tianjian sighed gently. This was the only way to protect Jianquan. Soon afterwards, he gently waved his hand, and an invisible force wrapped around Jianquan, sucking him into the space gate. When Jianquan reappeared, he was already outside Lore City in the Jessen Kingdom. Tianjian also followed along with him. Jianquan, go deal with what you need to at home. I'll wait for you here, Tianjian said indifferently. Jianquan said nothing in reply. He was about to leave the Tianyuan continent, and he became unhappy as a result, because he knew he would have to leave behind all his friends and family. Once he left, he had no idea when he could return again. Perhaps he would only return after he possessed the strength to fend off both the Protector clans and the Beast God continent. However, he had no idea how far away that day was. Perhaps he would need thousands of years before he could return. By then, all the people would have changed. Jianquan carried an indescribable loneliness, flying towards the Changyang Manor of Lore City with a heavy heart. Currently in Lore City, the matter about finding the winged tiger god had already spread from mouth to mouth. Currently it had reached a level where almost all the people on the Tianyuan continent knew about the winged tiger god. Jianquan returned to the manor. His arrival immediately caused the place to become lively as many elders all rushed out and surrounded him like the stars around a moon, asking about how he was. Their expression were both courteous and filled with concern, with some pride sandwiched in between. After some small conversation with all the old people of the manor, he called Uncle Chang to his room. He set up a transparent barrier around the room with a wave of his hand. Looking at Jianquan's behavior, Uncle Chang knew that Jianquan was in a bad mood. Perhaps something bad had happened? Compounded by how careful Jianquan was, Uncle Chang immediately became rather stern and asked, "Fourth young master, why are you being so cautious? Has something happened?" Jianquan turned around to look at his room. He could not help but have images of the past flash across his eyes, and with a soft sigh, he said, "Uncle Chang, I need to leave here for some time, and that time may be very long." "Young master, has something big happened?" Uncle Chang's face was filled with worry. Jianquan nodded slightly. "A few things have occurred. Uncle Chang, after I leave the clan will be in your care." "Young master, you don't need to worry about the clan. Just be extra careful." Uncle Chang's voice was filled with concern. He could already guess that Jianquan had probably once more provoked powerful opponents outside. Jianquan produced a dozen or so Class 6 monster cores from his space ring and placed the handful on the table. He said, "Uncle Chang, these Class 6 monster cores will assist your cultivation greatly. I don't need them anymore, so you should take them. I hope the next time we meet, Uncle Chang will have already reached Saint Ruler." Jianquan told Uncle Chang a few more things before leaving the room. He then proceeded to the manor's back courtyard, the small quiet building where his eldest brother, Chang Yonghu, stayed. Uncle Chang eyed the monster cores left behind by Jian Chun with a complicated gaze, before slowly putting them away, one by one, into his space ring. Afterwards, he looked out the window absent-mindedly, as if he had dug up some ancient memories. After a very long while did Uncle Chang murmur quickly, "Now that all 10 protector clans of the continent have emerged, the news of finding the winged tiger god has spread everywhere. And that tiger cub, that once accompanied the 4th young master, seems extremely similar to it. Perhaps it actually is the winged tiger god. Otherwise, with his strength, young master wouldn't be forced into such a situation. Master, you've already left for hundreds of years. There's not much time until the end of your life. Just where are you? If the ancestors learned that you left behind an unprecedented prodigy for the Changyang clan, I think those ancestors would forgive you and remove your punishment. They'll let you successfully become a saint ruler." As Uncle Chang murmured, 2 turbid tears rolled down his face. Jian Chun arrived at the small individual building, where his eldest brother stayed. He saw his brother half lying in a wheelchair, being slowly pushed around the yard by a servant girl. "Big brother!" Jian Chun called out, directly making his way for Changyang Hu. "Ah, it's the 4th you master." This servant greets the 4th young master. As soon as the servant girl saw Jian Chun, she was surprised and hurriedly bowed towards Jian Chun. "4th brother, you're finally back." Changyang Hu looked towards Jian Chun. An indifferent smile appeared on his face, yet his voice was extremely calm, and without any emotions. Jian Chun quickly made his way to Changyang Hu and dismissed the servant girl. Afterwards, he pushed the wheelchair himself, taking Changyang Hu around the yard. Jian Chun glanced past the flowering shrubs and said softly, "Brother, I've come this time to say farewell." Changyang Hu smiled slightly. "Brother, why don't you stay for a few more days this time instead of hurrying off? Just how many days of these past years have you spent in the manor?" Hearing that, Jian Chun laughed dryly before pushing the wheelchair into the building. He said, "Brother, other than to bid farewell, I've come for something else this time. And that's to heal your limbs." Chapter 796. Healing Missing Limbs. Recover my limbs? Changyang Hu stared blankly at Jian Chun and smiled. "Brother, have you already become a Class 7, Radiant Saint Master?" What Jian Chun had said did not cause his brother to display any emotions of happiness. Perhaps, to him his missing limbs were no longer a matter of importance. Jian Chun shook his head. "Brother, I still haven't reached Class 7 yet, but I do have the ability to recover your limbs. Brother, don't move. I'll send you to a certain place. Your limbs can be healed there." Jian Chun opened his hand, and a palm-sized golden tower suddenly appeared. A white streak of light shot out from it, enveloping Changyang Hu and disappearing with him. Afterwards, Jian Chun was also enveloped by the white light and sent into the artifact space. Only the tiny golden tower was left floating in the empty room. The reason why Class 7, Radiant Saint Masters could regrow missing limbs, or even revive the dead, was because of the origin energy of Radiant Saint Force. Only the origin energy could do all that. Although Jian Chun had yet to reach Class 7, or obtain the origin energy of Radiant Saint Force, he had the Saint Artifact. If his brother was taken into the artifact space, the artifact spirit could easily heal him. Within the artifact, the hall that was destroyed in the process of breaking the ancient vow had already reappeared. Suddenly, there was a white flash of light inside, and Changyang Hu, on his wheelchair and all, appeared in the grand hall from out of nowhere. Changyang Hu looked around the unfamiliar place. His eyes carried a sliver of blankness and curiosity. Before he could carefully look around, there was another flash of light, and Jian Chun, in his fighter-like tight blue robes, had appeared beside him. "Brother, where is this?" Changyang Hu asked out of curiosity. "Brother, this is another space. Only in here can your limbs be healed." Jian Chun smiled. "Master." A heavy voice resounded from his side. The artifact spirit had already appeared right next to Jian Chun like a ghost, without a single sound or sign. Jian Chun looked at the artifact spirit and said, "Artifact spirit, you'll be responsible for my brother's injuries." "Master, don't worry. Although my origin energy of Radiant Saint Force can't be absorbed by Master, it can be used to heal other people." Also, your brother's not very powerful, and his body's rather fragile. If I want to heal his limbs, I will only need half a strand of the origin energy." With that, the artifact spirit made a pointing gesture. A strand of origin energy quickly condensed, shining with a dazzling white light. "Is this the origin energy of Radiant Saint Force?" Jianshun could not help but narrow his eyes. This was the first time he had seen it with his own eyes. He felt that there were no major differences between the origin energy and Radiant Saint Force. Both were of similar characteristics. However, he could feel an extraordinarily rich force of life in the origin energy, countless times more powerful than inside the Radiant Saint Force he could control. This was a leap in quality. The disparity between the two was like a chasm. After the origin energy entered Changyang Hu, a dazzling white light immediately rose up from his body, enveloping him inside it completely. Jian Chen's eyes flashed in interest. He stared fixedly at Changyang Hu wrapped in the white light. He seemed to be able to see through the extremely dense Radiant Saint Force, to see exactly what was going on inside. Gradually, a sliver of joy appeared on Jian Chen's face from his excitement. Even his hands were tightly clenched. He could clearly see his brother's missing limbs regrow at a visible rate with the help of the origin energy. It lasted for roughly half an hour. The light around Changyang Hu slowly dispersed, revealing his burly body. Currently Changyang Hu remained on the wheelchair, but his sleeves and trousers were no longer empty. New legs and arms had grown. The new limbs had skin as smooth as a baby's bottom, and were very thick, fitting extremely well with Changyang Hu's burly body. On the surface of his new limbs was the faint glow of white light. It was left over, unused Radiant Saint Force. The origin energy remained in his body. It could not be used by him, nor was it controlled by him, but it would bring unbelievable benefits. If he was heavily injured again in the future, this residue would come into great use. Changyang Hu looked at his newly grown limbs, but he did not become excited. Instead, his gaze became rather complicated. He stood up from the wheelchair with some stiff movements, and walked around a few times in the hall. He sighed softly. Having it healed is good too. At least, in the future I can take care of myself. I don't need to be served by people. It'll be much more convenient. Having his limbs healed only seemed to be helpful to Changyang Hu's everyday life. That was the limit of it. "Brother, you can keep cultivating in the future," Jianchen said softly. He could not tell how his brother was feeling from how he was acting. Changyang Hu gently shook his head. "No, I don't plan on cultivating anymore in the future. Brother, I've seen through life these days. From your brother's perspective, even powerful fighters may not be able to lead lives as happy as ordinary people. Also, no matter how strong you are, don't you still end up the same as those ordinary people? Everything turns into a piles of dust, dissipating along with the wind and disappearing forever. Even the 4 champions of the ancient times could not escape the corrosion of time. They've already vanished from this world." Jianchen sighed secretly. He knew that there was a great change to his eldest brother after being traumatized this badly. He even doubted if the Changyang Hu currently before him was still the same brother who studied with him at Kargath Academy. His brother's limbs had all healed. This was supposed to be something that was worth celebrating over. However, with his brother like this he could not become happy no matter what. Jianchen turned to the artifact spirit. "Artifact spirit, can you revive people from the dead?" "Master, my limit is regrowing limbs. Reviving people from the dead is not something an artifact spirit, can do. This is because there's a need to learn the 3 soul-controlling techniques. One must use those techniques to condense the deceased soul, nourish it with the origin energy, and then fuse it into the body. That is how the dead can be revived," the artifact spirit explained. Hearing that, Jianchen furrowed his eyebrows slightly. He had stayed at the Union for quite some time, but he had never thought that there was a need for 3 soul-controlling techniques to bring back the deceased. "Are you unable to learn the 3 techniques, even with your ability?" Jianchen asked again. The artifact spirit was bitter-faced and smiled bitterly. "Master, there's a need to have a soul to practice the 3 techniques. This one is only the spirit from an artifact. I don't have a soul, so naturally I can't learn them. However, this one knows the way to learn the techniques. But only Class 7, Radiant Saint Masters with the Origin Energy can learn them. Once Master reaches Class 7, this one will tell Master the way to practice these techniques. A sliver of disappointment appeared in Jian Chen's eyes. He originally thought he could borrow the artifact spirit's power to revive his parents. However, he had never thought that 3 soul-controlling techniques needed to be mastered before any reviving could happen. Whatever. I'll put the matter of reviving my parents to the side for now, Jian Chen thought before taking his brother out of the artifact space with him. They returned to the small, lonely building. The two of them talked for 2 hours before Jian Chen bid farewell. During that time, Changyang who did not ask about the saint artifact at all. Perhaps some things were no longer able to cause him to become curious. Afterwards, Jian Chen visited his first aunt, Ling Long, and his second aunt, Yu Fengyang. After that he left the manor. An hour later, Jian Chen arrived at a grand inn in the center of the city. The inn had only been opened for a few years, but it was the largest and most luxurious in the city. It was also the safest inn in the entire Lore City. No one in the entire kingdom, even the large clans, dared to make any trouble for the inn, let alone the people in the city. This was because all the people knew that the owner of the inn had an extremely deep relationship with the #1 clan of the kingdom, the Changyang clan. Also, her connection with the imperial protector of the clan, the 4th young master of the Changyang clan, was something else. If she was offended, it would be indirectly offending Changyang Xiangtian as well. As a result, the inn was famous across the entire kingdom, even with only a few years of being run. Even outsider mercenaries and merchants would obediently hide away their arrogance, unwilling to act wildly, while they were in the inn. Jian Chen found the owner and Sans in the inn, people whom he had not met for a very long time. He departed straight away after some casual conversation. Departing from the inn, Jian Chen directly left the city. Immediately, a voice boomed in his head. "Have you dealt with the matters at home?" "I've done it all, but I need to pop into where the flame mercenaries are," Jian Chen said with a rather gruff voice. "I'll take you there. Try to deal with everything within a day. I need to send you off the continent today. I fear that once it's been dragged out, the situation will develop more and more against you. The 10 protector clans are deeply rooted great clans. Although you are hiding your presence, which prevents them from finding you temporarily, you must not drag it out for too long. Once they use the secret techniques from ancient times, it doesn't matter where you hide." With that, Tianjian directly split open the space to form a crack, taking Jian Chen away. Chapter 797. Farewell currently by Hai Yu Yu, by Lian Mingdong, De Gafeng, and a few other people who Jian Chen trusted the most were gathered in the conference hall of the Flame Mercenaries. They were all discussing something, each with stern expressions. The entire room was enveloped by a clear barrier. They were extremely cautious. That winged tiger beast searched for by the ancient clans just looks too similar to the white tiger Jian Chen has. They're both white tiger cubs, and they both have a pair of snow-white feathered wings. Do you think the winged tiger god is Xiaobai or not? Ming Dong was extremely grim. He naturally knew that things would be troublesome if Xiaobai was the winged tiger god. I too think Xiaobai is extremely similar to the ancient winged tiger god mentioned by the Tianmu clan. Perhaps Xiaobai really is the ancient beast god? Bai Lian's eyebrows were furrowed, and she seemed extremely anxious. She knew that if Xiaobai was the winged tiger god, it would definitely be taken away by the Tianmu clan, and there would be conflict if Jian Chen was unwilling. It'll be problematic if that is the case. According to the news I've just received, the entire world seems to be looking everywhere for the winged tiger god right now. I hope Jian Chen is fine. The speaker was Yu Yu, who wore a pink dress. She wore light makeup which made her devastating beauty even more alluring. Combined with her worry, she seemed rather pitiful, causing people to feel sympathetic. I wonder where Jian Chen is right now. I hope he can return safely, Huang Wan said softly. She too was worried. All right, let's not talk about this anymore. This is not an everyday matter. It's best if we don't discuss about this just between us, because even if there's a barrier up there, maybe people even more powerful than me, who can directly eavesdrop on us. Let's talk about it after my grandson returns. The ancestor of the Bai clan spoke out. Even though he was grim, his voice carried an authoritative heaviness. With that, everyone immediately stopped their discussion, ignoring Bai Hai's strength. Just his identity as Jian Chen's grandfather was enough to deter everyone from offending him. The people there did not dare to disobey Bai Hai. At that very moment, Bai Hai's expression changed suddenly. He shot up from his chair as a sliver of joy appeared on his face. My grandson is back. What? Jian Chen is back. Ming Dong and everyone else were first surprised before rejoicing. Bai Hai removed the barrier around the hall, as the doors to the hall slowly opened. A blue-robed Jian Chen and white-clothed Tian Jian walked in slowly. Jian Chen, you're finally back. Uncle Tian, why have you come too? Seeing the two people, Ming Dong immediately exclaimed out of pleasant surprise. Jian Chen, you finally come back. Jian Chen's safe return caused Bai Lian, Yu and Huang Luan to all rejoice. They all called out gently, their voices filled with happiness. Bai Hai saw Jian Chen. Just when he was about to speak, he suddenly noticed Tian Jian beside him from the corner of his eye. His expression changed slightly, immediately hurrying up. He clasped his hands towards Tian Jian courteously. Junior greets the grand elder. No need to be so polite. Tian Jian smiled before looking at Ming Dong. His gaze immediately became benevolent, and he said, Child, you've already reached heaven, Saint Master. Not bad at all. Your talent is very impressive. I hope you can continue to cultivate arduously. You'll definitely have some achievements in the future. Ming Dong chuckled and hurried to Tian Jian. He said, Uncle Tian, let's not talk about that for now. Right now, we have more important things we need to discuss with Jian Chen. Ming Dong paused before continuing. We've received news from the Tianmu clan for the Flame Mercenaries to put down everything we're currently doing and devote all our strength to finding the Winged Tiger God as soon as possible. The Winged Tiger God the Tianmu clan wants is very similar to Xiaobai. Do you think they're searching for him? Oh yeah, why isn't Xiaobai with you? Xiaobai is currently staying in an extremely well-hidden place. As for the Winged Tiger God people are searching for, it indeed is Xiaobai. Jian Chen did not conceal it. Now that the situation had already developed like this, he no longer had any need to continue concealing the White Tiger's identity. What? Xiaobai really is the Winged Tiger God? Perhaps the Tianmu clan is in search for it, because they want to tame it to become their protector beast? Yi said from shock. Her expression became more grim. No, those in search of the Winged Tiger God is the not Tianmu clan, but rather the 10 protector clans. Jian Chen said. Seeing everyone's confusion, he continued. The 10 protector clans are the 10 most powerful clans on the Tianyuan continent. They completely supersede ancient clans. Even the ancient clans needs to listen to their orders. Oh my god, the protector clans are so powerful. Brother, what do you intend to do? Bai Lian became even more worried. I will be leaving the Tianyuan continent. This time I have come to bid farewell. Jian Chen said heavily. This time, he had no idea when he would be able to return. He had no idea when the next time he would able to meet or see these people again would be. Jian Chen stayed with the Flame Mercenaries for the entire afternoon. He dealt with what he needed to deal with, and gave full authority to Bai Lian and Yu to deal with the problems of development. As for Bai Hai and Jetatai, they stood guard and protected the mercenaries as saint rulers. Jian Chen, I won't be dealing with the matters of the mercenaries. After you leave, I'll immediately find a quiet place to go into seclusion. Ming Dong suddenly stood up. His eyes flowed with a determined light. The situation that forced Jian Chen to leave the continent affected Ming Dong very much, and aroused his determination to work hard and become stronger. This was because he knew that even though he was now a Heaven Saint Master, he was of no help to Jian Chen. He could only watch on helplessly as his brother, someone who had been through thick and thin with him, had to endure the great pressure and leave the continent. He could do nothing. This made Ming Dong feel horrible. Strength. Strength. Only with strength does one have the right to survive. Jian Chen produced over 20 Class 6 monster cores and passed it to Ming Dong. Ming Dong, you can't rush cultivation. The energy hidden within monster cores have a violent factor. If you don't properly overcome them, they can leave behind irremovable problems. I'm giving these Class 6 monster cores to you. I hope you can use them prudently. You mustn't use them with undue haste. Don't worry, brother. I'm not stupid, I know what to do. Ming Dong guaranteed sincerely. Jianshan looked towards Huang Luan, and his gaze became rather complicated. He pulled out a great pile of Class 5 monster cores from his space ring and said, Luaner, you have very great talent. You're a prodigy rarely seen even in 1,000 years, reaching 3rd cycle Earth Saint Master, without any heavenly resources or monster cores. I am giving these monster cores to you, not for you to use, but to prepare for the case you need them in the future. Huang Luan's eyes were watery. She looked at Jianshan, unwilling to part, and said softly, Jianshan, when are you going to come back? Jianshan sighed softly. Even I don't know. Huang Luan could no longer hold it back, and tears began to roll down her face. She already understood that it might be an extremely long time before she could see Jianshan again. Jianshan sighed once more before arriving beside Yu. Yuer, don't overwork for the mercenaries. If you can, just leave matters for the people below to handle. Once I leave, you need to work hard on your cultivation. That's the only way you can lengthen your life. I hope you're a Heaven Saint Master next time I see you. Yu's tears gushed out like a fountain. She gently bit her lips and would sob from time to time. She sobbed, Jianshan, Yuer will definitely work hard on cultivation. Yuer will wait for you to return. Jianshan looked at Bai Lian, and a sliver of affection appeared in his eyes. He said, Lianer, you also need to cultivate properly. Brother, you must promise Lianer that you will return safe and sound. Bai Lian cried. Her voice was already unclear from the crying. My father's gone, my mother's gone, and so is my aunt. Brother, Lianer can't lose you as well. Reaching the end, she threw herself onto Jianshan's chest. She wailed in tears, clearly heartbroken. Lianer, brother promises that he will return safe and sound. After a farewell that seemed like they were separating forever, Jianshan and Tianjian finally left the Flame Mercenaries. Senior, I want to go to the Qinhuang Kingdom. I want to retrieve my parents' bodies. Jianshan said. Tianjian nodded slightly and directly sliced open the space, taking Jianshan to the sky above the kingdom. Afterwards, Jianshan directly entered the Imperial Palace, heading towards the Qin Heaven Palace. At that very moment, 4 powerful presences appeared in the distance. The 4 Imperial protectors simultaneously hurried out from the palace, blocking Jianshan's path. Jianshan remained without expression. He looked at the 4 of them calmly and clasped his hands at them. Jianshan greets the 4 seniors. The 4 Imperial protectors eyes Jianshan with a complicated gaze. Qin Yunlong sighed gently. Jianshan, it's best if you come back. You already know all about it. Jianshan's expression remained the same. He had anticipated this long ago as Old Man Situ and Matang had announced his real name back in the City of God. Correct, we learned about this already. We've heard about the matter of Yang Yutian in the City of God. Qin Yunlong said with a mixture of many emotions. Jianshan paused for a while, and then said, I am going to retrieve my parents right now. Are you blocking me? The 4 Imperial protectors did not reply immediately. Currently they felt extremely conflicted, and after a while of pause, it was still Qin Yunlong who spoke. Jianshan, the people blocking you are not us. The ancestor of the Kara clan has already come to the kingdom, and he's currently in the Imperial Palace. Chapter 798. Encountering newbies unexpectedly, what Qin Yunlong said in the end caused Jianshan to furrow his eyebrows slightly. The light in his eyes flickered a few times before he asked calmly, Does the ancestor of the Kara clan want to stop me from leaving and hand me over to the 10 protector clans as a meritorious deed? Qin Yunlong sighed gently. Jianshan, we never thought you would actually be able to cause such a great commotion. Not only have you raised the winged tiger god, you even took the treasure of the Radiant Saint Master Union. Even though we are one of the 8 great kingdoms, this has completely exceeded what we can manage. We also have no idea why the ancestor of the Kara clan has suddenly come. Jianshan, The ancestor wants to see you. Please come with us to the Qin Heaven Palace. Lead the way then. I hope the Kara clan won't do anything that angers me, or I can only forget what Miss Caroleeway did to help me in the artifact space. Jianchen said expressionlessly, unperturbed and calm. The arrival of the Kara clan ancestor did not cause Jianchen to fear, as the Grand Elder of Mercenary City was also in the kingdom. If the ancestor wanted to do anything to him, he believed that Tianjian would step in. Jianchen followed the 4 imperial protectors to the majestic Qin Heaven Palace. In the large guest room, Jianchen finally met the ancestor of the Kara clan. The ancestor seemed to be a man in his 30s. He seemed educated and refined, like a scholar, and his movements were filled with the nobility of aristocrats. The handsome man's skin seemed white and soft. His exquisite features combined flawlessly on his face, while his pitch-dark eyes were extremely profound, as if they contained a world of their own inside. Even though he was already middle-aged, he was a handsome man that could cause countless females to fall in love with him. Greetings, Senior. The imperial protector of the Qinhuang Kingdom, Jianchen, has come. The 4 imperial protectors clasped their hands at the man, their expressions filled with respect. The man elegantly took a sip of tea before turning towards Jianchen. You are Yang Yutian? As well as the previous king of mercenaries, the imperial protector of the Qinhuang Kingdom, Jianchen? Senior is correct. That is me. I, Jianchen, greet the senior. Jianchen clasped his hands at the middle-aged man and spoke calmly. His gaze was unjudging while his expression was unperturbed, without even the slightest fear. The ancestor stood up and walked around Jianchen in interest twice, constantly observing him. He seemed like he wanted to get to know Jianchen's inside and outside completely. Not bad, not bad. Jianchen, I've already learned about your achievements from the 4 of them. In just a few years you went from being an Earth Saint Master to a powerful Saint Ruler, as well as a Class 6, Radiant Saint Master. You also grasped the 3 great radiant arts of the Radiant Saint Master Union. Your talent is so great that it is unprecedented in history, and will probably never be overtaken in the future. I was tongue-tied after learning these exact details about you. This is just unbelievable. The ancestor marveled at him. Jianchen's talent had indeed stunned him. I thank Senior for his praise. Senior definitely has other things to discuss to meet Junior after hurrying over from the faraway Holy Empire. Jianchen remained calm, without the slightest trace of pride or arrogance on his face. Looking at how unperturbed Jianchen remained, the ancestor nodded in satisfaction once again. He constantly walked around Jianchen with small steps and asked, Jianchen, are you really 24 this year? Why does Senior ask that? Jianchen asked in response. The ancestor laughed coolly and said, It is just too rare for a 24-year-old to have such accomplishments and yet maintain such modest attitude. You are the most outstanding prodigy out of all the ones I've seen in all these years. All right, let's not talk about that anymore. Jianchen, do you know why I have come this time? The man changed his tone as he became stern. He stared at Jianchen in interest. If Junior has guessed correctly, Senior has come for 2 matters. 1. Regarding the Protector clan's search for the winged tiger god, and 2. The Saint artifact of the Union. Jianchen replied, Correct. I have indeed come for those 2 matters. Jianchen, do you know what the existence of the winged tiger god means for the continent? Do you know what kind of threat the continent will be facing? This will be a calamity. You shielding the winged tiger god like this, and assisting its growth is extremely likely to bring a disaster to the continent, the person said extremely sternly. Jianchen rejected the notion flatly by shaking his head. Senior, the conclusion you've reached is a little subjective. As long as the continent does nothing that harms the winged tiger god, I can guarantee you that it definitely won't do anything that will harm or endanger the continent after it grows up. The ancestor stared at Jianchen with a fixed gaze. After staring for a while with narrowed eyes, he finally relaxed slightly. I hope so too. But the matter of the winged tiger god will naturally be dealt by the Protector clans. I have no right to interfere. Coming at this time, and asking about the winged tiger god, was actually secondary. My main intention is for the Saint artifact of the Union. Jianchen, The Saint artifact is just too important to the Union. They cannot afford to lose it, because once it is gone no more Class 7, Radiant Saint Masters will appear, and as a result, the Union will lose their status. The Union will even completely collapse. We all know that the artifact follows you out of its own accord, so we hope that you can personally return the artifact to the Union. The ancestor said sincerely. Jian Chen's expression became ugly. Senior, it is very difficult for me to return the Saint artifact right now. However, I will definitely make up for the loss the Union has suffered in the future. The man's expression became slightly grim and said, Jian Chen, the Saint artifact is just too important to the Union. Do you really plan on not returning it? Senior, the artifact has a spirit, and it has already accepted me as its master. How can I return it? Also, as I've already said, I will make up for the Union's losses in the future. Jianchen replied. The light in the ancestor's eyes flickered. After a slight hesitation, he finally sighed gently. All right, since you insist on it, I won't be trying to force you. I only hope that, in the future, if my Kara clan has any Class 6, Radiant Saint Masters who want to reach Class 7, you can use the Saint artifact to help them out. That child Kara Liwei has already reached the peak of Class 6. She will never be able to break through successfully without the artifact's help. Senior does not need to worry. I owe Miss Kara Liwei a favor. If your Kara clan is in need of the origin energy of the artifact, this one will definitely help out. Jianchen said. Then I can relax. Jianchen, I won't be wasting any more of your time. You can go retrieve your parents' bodies. The ancestor allowed Jianchen to go with a wave of his hand. He did not make things difficult for Jianchen. Junior bids farewell. Jianchen clasped his hands at the ancestor of the Kara clan, before heading directly for where his parents' bodies were kept. Afterwards he left. When Jianchen left, the ancestor sighed. He mumbled to himself, My Kara clan cannot offend descendants of the Changyang clan. Although I don't know if the Changyang clan of Lore City is connected with that Changyang clan or not, it's still best if I don't offend them. Just in case it really is that Changyang clan, it'll be great trouble for my Kara clan. Also, Jianchen's presence had suddenly appeared in the Qinhuang kingdom. He must have a Saint King accompanying him, and I didn't even sense that person's presence. Looks like his strength is far beyond mine. Jianchen did not meet any obstructions when he removed his parents' body. He left after temporarily placing them in his space ring. Currently, Jianchen was soaring in the sky to leave the city. That was where he and Tianjian had agreed to meet. At that very moment, a golden streak of light shot over from the distance with lightning speed. When the streak of light had noticed Jianchen, it immediately changed in direction and headed straight for him. Jianchen stopped and stared at the streak of light in interest. Soon after, a sliver of surprise appeared in his eyes and he cried out, That's Newbies, why is he here? The golden light stopped before Jianchen, revealing the gold-clothed Newbies. Currently, he was pale-faced without the slightest trace of blood, while there was residue blood at the corner of his lips. He was already heavily injured, and in an extremely horrible shape. Newbies saw Jianchen, and also revealed a sliver of surprise on his face. However, it was soon replaced by anxiety, and he said hurriedly, Jianchen, leave here quickly. There's an old snake chasing me. With that, Newbies pulled Jianchen by the arm without any further explanations, flying towards Mercenary City. We need to head to Mercenary City with our greatest speed. Only by alerting the experts of the city can we escape safely. Newbie's tone was filled with urgency, as if he currently faced some great danger. Newbies, just what happened? Jianchen asked curiously. He had known Newbies for so long, yet this was the first time he had ever seen Newbies in such a bad shape. An old snake's come from the beast god continent. He's a silver-striped gold snake like me. He infiltrated the Tianyuan continent, using a secret technique to hide his presence from the human experts. He wants to kill me and devour me for my hidden essence. Newbies displayed a grimness he had never shown before. Shooting through the sky with his greatest speed with Jianchen in tow, he headed straight for Mercenary City. Chapter 799. Tianjian steps in. Haha, you little snake, you think you can run? Obediently offer up your hidden essence. Just as newbies finished speaking, a heavy voice appeared. A burly, gold-robed middle-aged man appeared out of nowhere, blocking Jian Chun and Newbie's path. Newbies became extremely ugly. He cried out angrily, "It's very close to the mercenary city. If you dare to attack, you'll definitely alert the authority of Mercenary City. When that happens, you'll be doomed even if you're class 8. Ehe, you little snake, are pretty smart to know that there are very few people who are my opponent on this continent, which was why you fled towards Mercenary City. But you used a secret technique to flee without paying attention to the consequences, and now you're completely burnt out. I only need a twitch of a finger to kill you. I won't alert the human experts at all." The middle-aged man sneered while he extended his hand towards newbies. Wherever it passed by, a powerful energy would rip open the space. It seemed simple, but it contained a great power that could collapse mountains. Currently, Jian Chun and newbies were both trapped in the suddenly condensed space lock, and were completely immobilized. They could only watch on helplessly as the hand quickly approached them, as they just did not have the power to forcefully break the space lock from a Class 8 magical beast. A magical beast dares to infiltrate my Tianyuan continent. How dare you? At that very moment, a grim, cold voice boomed in the sky. The white-robed Tianjian suddenly appeared right in front of Jian Chun and newbies. With a pointing gesture, the space in front of him trembled. A finger-sized hole directly appeared in the hand, reaching towards the two of them. Not only did Tianjian's gesture pierce the magical beast's hand, it even passed through to his chest, punching a finger-sized hole into it. The tough body of the Class 8 magical beast was like tofu before Tianjian's casual pointing gesture. The Class 8 magical beast produced a muffled grunt and stared at the sudden appearance of Tianjian in shock. When he recognized who Tianjian was, he immediately paled in fright, completely terrified. He did not even have the intention of putting up a fight, instead immediately disappearing without hesitation. He had fled with a secret technique. Tianjian remained expressionless. He said, "9 godly secrets world lock." The space in the surrounding thousands of kilometers immediately froze. It seemed to be sealed up by a mysterious but powerful energy. And it was not just space. Time itself seemed to freeze. In that very moment, the air froze and time stopped. Everything fell into silence. The magical beast reappeared hundreds of kilometers away. Currently, he was locked up in the air in a fleeing posture, completely unable to move and absolutely terrified. Tianjian took a single step. He traversed the hundreds of kilometers and arrived before the magical beast. He gently placed his hand onto the magical beast's head. The Class 8 magical beast trembled, and the light in his eyes quickly disappeared. They had become lifeless. Tianjian's gentle hand had already extinguished his origin soul, killing him instantly without the chance for a counterattack. With the death of the magical beast, the surrounding space recovered to how it was before. Tianjian appeared beside Jian Chun with a flash, carrying the magical beast's corpse, and said, "I'd never think that a Class 8 magical beast would infiltrate our continent, though fortunately it met me. Otherwise, with his superior ability for battle as a beast of antiquity, there aren't many people who could stop him." Jian Chun and newbies were stunned as they stared at the middle-aged man in Tianjian's hand. The shock they experienced had already reached the absolute limit. A Class 8 magical beast, not to mention a silver-striped golden snake beast of antiquity, had been slaughtered by Tianjian without the slightest difficulty, just like that. The strength displayed by Tianjian had already deeply astounded them. They had never thought that killing a Class 8 magical beast, something equal in strength to a human Saint King, could be done so easily. Killing a Class 8 magical beast was just like having a meal to Tianjian. He did not have any particular reaction. Everything seemed ordinary and unimportant to him. Standing in front of Jian Chun, he calmly gazed at him and asked, "Has everything been dealt with?" Jian Chun sucked in a deep breath and glanced at Tianjian's hand, still rather perturbed. It was still a human form Class 8 magical beast. Gulping with difficulty, he said, "Senior, Junior's dealt with everything. We can leave right now. We can't waste time. Leave with me this instant." Tianjian directly cut open the space with a swing of his hand, creating a space gate with his ability as a Saint King. Jianshan, where are you going? Oh yeah. I felt the presences of several experts from the Beast God continent a few days ago. Have those magical beasts perhaps come to the Tianyuan continent? Newbies also recovered from the shock and asked on one side. In the past few days he had faced the pursuit of the old snake, unable to contact anybody as he left the mercenaries. He had since been on the run for his life, and still did not know that the news of the winged tiger god had already been leaked. Jianshan nodded. Those experts have come for the winged tiger god. The news has already been leaked, and the 10 protector clans are searching the entire continent for me. It's no longer safe for me to stay here. I need to take refuge with the sea race. The sea race? Newbies was slightly surprised. After some deliberation, he said, I still don't know if there are other experts of the same species as me from the Beast God continent. Since they've already entered the Tianyuan continent, it's no longer safe for me to stay either. Once a magical beast of the same species finds me, it'll become troublesome. I'm a magical beast, so those human experts can only wish for us to kill each other. They definitely won't be saving me. Jianshan, I might as well just go to where the sea races with you. Silver-striped golden snakes were beasts of antiquity, but were an extremely brutal species. If they wanted to gain strength quickly or evolve, they needed to kill their own clansmen to absorb the hidden essence. That works too. Senior Tianjian, why not bring newbies along? Jianshan requested. Yeah, with you two together you'll have a great chance at surviving. Though I must warn you about something. The strength and situation of the sea race is unknown, and the sea god is still alive. They may be much more powerful than the Tianyuan continent. You two need to be careful about everything once you arrive. Don't worry, Senior, we will definitely be cautious, Jianshan replied. Tianjian then turned to newbies and tossed the Class 8 magical beast corpse to him. He said, This silver-striped golden snake's already at the 4th heavenly layer. As the same species, you should be able to absorb the hidden essence from it. It should let you power up by quite a lot. You should take it. Newbies immediately became extremely excited. He hurriedly accepted the corpse. The serendipity was so great that even his voice began trembling. I thank Senior. Junior will never forget Senior's kindness. Junior will always remember it, and return this favor in the future when he gets the chance. To newbies, Tianjian's gift of the Class 8 magical beast corpse was virtually the same as receiving a great fortune. The magical beast had even reached the 4th heavenly layer. If he absorbed the hidden essence, his strength would skyrocket or even evolve. Tianjian paid no attention to newbies. The sea race's territory is located in the direction of the Northern Ocean. It's extremely far away from the ocean, so if I created a space gate with such a great distance, it would most definitely be discovered by other experts. Let's first go back to Mercenary City. You can use the space gate there to slip out without anyone knowing. As he spoke, Tianjian waved his hand and sucked Jianshan and newbies into a space gate. After Tianjian had left, a person appeared there without a sound. He stared at where the space gate closed up grimly and mumbled. Jianshan definitely has a Saint King beside him, and that person's strength is too terrifying. He actually slaughtered a 4th heavenly layer Class 8 magical beast without much effort at all. That's definitely not something I can do. And that space-locking technique before was definitely a Saint-tier battle skill. It seems like the supreme skill of Mercenary City, the 9 godly secrets. As legend puts it, it was left behind by Mo Tianyun years ago, and has a total of 9 forms. One of the forms, Worldlock, seems to have an effect like that. Perhaps the person with Jianshan is an expert from Mercenary City? This person was the ancestor of the Kara clan. When Jianshan and newbies reappeared, they were in the floating palace where Jianshan had initially met Tianjian during the gathering of mercenaries. Standing in the palace, Jianshan hesitated for a while before clasping his hands at Tianjian. Senior, Junior has an unreasonable request. I wish to leave my parents' bodies in Mercenary City. After I leave this time, I do not know if I am able to return in the future. If I cannot, I hope Senior can try find ways to revive my parents. After a slight deliberation, Tianjian nodded. Jianchen did not choose to take his parents' bodies with him to where the sea race resided. He had no ideas of the dangers, or even if he was going to return alive. If he was dead, his parents would have no chance of revival. As a result, in the end he chose to leave his parents behind in Mercenary City. Big brother. You've finally come to see Xiaoling. Xiaoling misses you so much. At that moment, a clear and rather childish voice resounded in Jianchen's mind. Afterwards, the small figure of Xiaoling appeared in the palace. Big brother, what's wrong? Did you encounter something unhappy? Xiaoling can feel big brother's unhappiness. Hee, but that doesn't matter. Big brother, you will smile as soon as you see Xiaoling. Right, brother? Big brother, let's smile. Xiaoling arrived beside Jianchen, clinging onto Jianchen's arm affectionately and shaking it. Xiaoling's appearance finally helped lessen Jianchen's unhappiness from having to travel long and far from his homeland. A vague smile appeared on his face, and he said, Xiaoling, Big brother is going to be going on a long journey very soon. Even Big brother has no idea when he will return this time. Big brother might not be able to see you in the future for a very long time. Chapter 800. Leaving the Tianyuan continent, as soon as she heard that Jianchen would be leaving, Xiaoling immediately became frantic. She said almost in tears, Where are you going, big brother? Are you going to find master? Big brother can't abandon Xiaoling. Reaching that point, Xiaoling's expression suddenly changed. She carefully sniffed Jianchen, and her eyes became shrouded in doubt. She said, Weird big brother, the smell of master on you has become much fainter. Ah, Xiaoling knows, big brother must have been separated from master for too long, causing master's smell to grow faint. Haha, Xiaoling is so smart. Suddenly, Xiaoling gave soft interjection of surprise. She closely observed Jianchen as disbelief appeared in her eyes. She then pursed her lips and said, Big brother, you're so wasteful. You absorbed so much energy from Xiaoling's place. Why is there only this little left? Xiaoling spent a long time gathering this energy. Big brother is too unappreciative. Jianchen smiled bitterly. Back then, against the 8 clans in the City of God, his terrifying strike had indeed consumed too much chaotic force. The originally thumb-sized amount had already shrunken to the size of a soybean. He had consumed a large portion of his chaotic force. Xiaoling, it's not that Big Brother wants to be so wasteful. But when Big Brother was caught up in a situation of life or death, he had no choice but to. Jianchen said in apology. After all, the reason why he could achieve the chaotic body so quickly was all because of Xiaoling. Newbies and Tianjian both stopped walking. They looked at Jianchen, wondering just who he was conversing with. However, when they glanced over they saw Jianchen smiling at empty space and talking to himself like an insane man. At least Tianjian understood. He knew that Jianchen must be talking to the ghost-like barrier spirit. The barrier spirit was extremely peculiar. If she did not want anyone to see her, no one would be able to discover her. Even with Tianjian's abilities, he was currently unable to detect her. However, newbies did not know about this. His gaze towards Jianchen immediately became extremely weird. It was definitely the first time such an interesting expression had appeared on his face. That's fine, as long as Big Brother is safe and sound. Big Brother. Xiaoling will definitely beat up all the bastards who bully Big Brother. But Xiaoling can't help Big Brother power up. The seal's been budging. Xiaoling needs to devote all her power into maintaining the seal. Jianchen smiled. Xiaoling, Big Brother doesn't need you to help him strengthen up. Big Brother will think of his own ideas. As soon as he finished speaking, a hand began waving in front of Jianchen's face. It was Newbies, currently staring at Jianchen with an extremely weird expression. He asked worriedly, Jianchen, are you fine? You say Xiaoling, and then Big Brother. Just who are you talking to? Why were you talking to yourself there? Jianchen's current behavior caused Newbies to worry slightly. He thought, God damn it. Jianchen's currently being forced off the continent by the protector clans. His burden must be huge. Has he become insane because the burden's too big? There's some problems with his head. Jianchen glared at Newbies before looking back at Xiaoling. Xiaoling, Big Brother will be leaving. When Big Brother returns, he will definitely come and see you. Xiao Ling looked at Jianchen tearfully. Big Brother, you are promising Xiao Ling that you will definitely come back to see Xiao Ling. You can't be like Master, disappearing without coming back. Only on Big Brother does Xiao Ling feel the presence of Master. Big Brother is the closest to Xiao Ling after Master. This is it. We still haven't even left the continent, and Jianchen's already become like this. Once we leave, Jianchen's situation will definitely worsen. What do I do? Currently, Newbies had already confirmed his thoughts. Jianchen had already gone mad. He was actually talking to the air. The situation was extremely bad. Even he had started worrying for Jianchen. After bidding farewell to Xiao Ling, Jianchen walked towards Tianjian. He said, Senior, let's go. Tianjian nodded, leading Jianchen towards the depths of the palace. Jianchen, are you fine? Have you recovered? Newbies walked in front of Jianchen and turned around, eyeing him doubtfully. He seemed to be unable to tell if Jianchen had really gone mad or not. When Jianchen saw Newbies' grimness, he could not help but smile slightly. There's nothing wrong with me. Then who were you talking to before? Newbies asked weirdly. That was the barrier spirit of Mercenary City. You can't see her. Jianchen did not hide it, because he knew that the existence of the barrier spirit was not a secret. The barrier spirit, is that so? Newbies suddenly came to an understanding. Jianchen and Newbies followed behind Tianjian, and they entered a square in the very center of the palace. The square was elevated around the edge, forming a platform. A space gate flowing with 5 different colors floated on the platform, with a radius of 1.5 meters. Through the gate was a clear blue ocean, connecting the place to the palace. After you pass through the space gate, travel for a few tens of kilometers. There you will discover an island. Find the mistress of the island, and learn about the sea race from her. She stays there all year, and should know quite a bit of detailed information about the sea race. Her island is extremely close to the sea abyss. Tianjian stood at the space gate, eyeing Jianchen as he spoke. Yes, Senior. Jianchen clasped his hands at Tianjian in gratitude before leaving through the space gate with Newbies. With just a single step, he left the Tianyuan continent and arrived in the sky above the Great Blue Ocean. Jianchen and Newbies floated at an altitude of several hundred meters, looking at the distant water. The space gate had already disappeared behind them. Is this the ocean? We're already a distance so far that even I don't know where we are compared to the continent. Even the edge of the continent can't be seen. Floating above the ocean, Jianchen mumbled to himself. His expression was a very complicated mixture of many emotions. Newbies was the exact opposite of Jianchen. He looked around the surroundings excitedly, at the deep blue and calm ocean surface. He laughed loudly. I, the great Newbies, have finally left the continent to see the ocean. Sea race of the sea abyss, I, the great Newbies, am coming. Allow me to see the mysterious sea race that even the seniors of my species have yet to completely understand. I, the great Newbies, am destined to add to the inherited memories of us silver-striped golden snakes with this trip. With that, Newbies pulled Jianchen along urgently. He said, Jianchen, let's quickly find that island mistress mentioned by the Grand Elder. Just as Jianchen left the continent, Mingdong had already bid farewell to everyone at the distant flame mercenaries before personally going into seclusion in the depths of mountains. Jianchen, it's always been you who has selflessly helped me these years, while the help I've given you is almost non-existent. From now on, I, Mingdong, will spend all my time cultivating here until your return. Mingdong sat down with his legs crossed in a pitch-black cave. His eyes shone with an unprecedented determination, and shortly afterwards, he pulled out several Class 6 monster cores and a white skeleton from his space ring. He mumbled, Jianchen, the Class 6 monster cores you've left behind will be the energy I used to reach the 6th cycle, while the Saint Ruler's skeleton we obtained in the space of that trials back at Mercenary City will be my hope for becoming a Saint Ruler. By the time you return, I will definitely have become a Saint Ruler, or even a Saint King. At the same time, the Radiant Saint Master Union President gathered with several elders in the Union headquarters. They all sat around in distress. Have you found Yang Yutian's whereabouts? After a long period of silence, An old voice finally broke it. It was the president of the union, speaking with a darkened expression. Jianshun had taken away the saint artifact of the union. That was equivalent to destroying the entire union, because the saint artifact was just too important. They could not afford to lose it. I've already launched all the forces of the union, and even gotten the Kara clan and Kazda clan to help find Yang Yutian. There should be news soon. A white-robed, purple-badged elder said gruffly. Losing the artifact had sucked all the elders into a bad mood. At that very moment, a black-clothed, middle-aged man walked in. His arrival immediately attracted the attention of all the elders seated. Have you found Yang Yutian's whereabouts? The president immediately asked. He stared fixedly at the man, his anxious feelings already clearly leaking onto his face. President, Yang Yutian has not been found, but we have found out about Yang Yutian's identity. The man said. Tell me. The president was rather impatient. No one was more worried about the saint artifact than him, because not only was it the treasure of the union, it was also his only hope in reaching Class 8. He did not have much time left. He could only live another 100 years at most. If he still failed to break through, then death would be knocking on his door. The president had completely ignored the threat of the Tsar family. Currently, the entire continent was in a mess because of the winged tiger god. The 10 protector clans had emerged. The Tsar family absolutely did not dare to begin the infighting at this time. Otherwise, the protector clans would severely punish them before they could even begin moving. Yang Yutian was Jianshun, the previous king of mercenaries, and the 4th young master of a small clan from a small kingdom. His name is Changyang Xiangtian, and he only broke through to Saint Ruler not too long ago, the man said expressionlessly. The president was overjoyed. He immediately stood up from his seat and said, Good. No matter who this Yang Yutian is, it's enough as long as we know where he lives. Elders, please quickly make preparations. We will head to that small kingdom at once. We have to recover the saint artifact. Chapter 801. Gathering at the Changyang Manor, 1. Inside the Yangji sect of the 10 protector clans. The current sect master sat on a raised throne in a majestic hall. Sitting below to his sides were a dozen or so old men. They were all saint rulers. Although they were not the most powerful in the sect, they were all high-ranking members. The entire sect was managed by these people who possessed a status similar to caretakers. We've already found out that Yang Yutian is Jianshun. His home is in Lore City of the Jessen Kingdom. He is from a small clan under the name of Changyang. His name in the clan is Changyang Xiangtian. The sect master on the throne spoke indifferently as he glanced around. What? The Changyang clan? The Changyang clan of the protector clans? As soon as the sect master said that, many people below immediately began to exclaim in surprise. The sect master smiled indifferently. The Changyang clan of the protector clans has 3 main branches: the Zhu branch, the Yuan branch, and the Qing branch. Xiang is not one of them. In my opinion, the Changyang clan in Lore City just happens to bear the same name, and is not actually the Changyang clan from the protector clans. That's true. Just how big is the Tianyuan continent? Encountering clans with the same names is something very common. The sect master should have analyzed it correctly. The Changyang clan of Lore City must only bear the same name as the protector clan. The sect master's words immediately prompted many to agree. At that very moment, an old man stood up. He said with clasped hands, Sect master, a few days ago, when the sect reopened its spatial seal, a disciple from a sect side branch established outside returned. At the same time, he brought back news that the side branch had been destroyed by someone. That person was Jianshun with the winged tiger god. A gleam of light flashed across the sect master's eyes, and he immediately stood up from his throne. He narrowed his eyes at the old man and asked, Elder Ling Yuanzi, is that true? Elder Ling Yuanzi clasped his hands at the sect master and said confidently, Sect master, I have already sent people to investigate this. This is all completely true, without the slightest inaccuracy. The sect master immediately began to laugh aloud. God is smiling at my Yangji sect. God really is smiling on my Yangji sect. The question of who will form the contract with the winged tiger god, after we obtain, it has always been the most troublesome matter between the 10 protector clans. Since Jianshun has actually wiped out one of our outside side branches, doesn't it mean that my Yangji sect has all the right in the world to take him? Us capturing Jianshun would be equivalent to controlling the winged tiger god. Even if he's captured by the other protector clans first, the fact that he wiped out one of our side branches still holds true. It just happened to function as a bargaining trip, and with some more string pulling, it'll become a great opportunity to obtain the winged tiger god and force it into a contract with us. The sect master's eyes glowed brighter and brighter. He soon sped out of the hall and said, "We can't delay this. I will contact the ancestors immediately and see if there is any need to control Jianshun's family members or close relatives. All elders, make preparations to be ready to set out at any moment." A dozen or so people currently soared through the skies in the Jesson kingdom. The two leading people were a young woman who seemed to be in her 20s, and a young man who seemed to be just a little older. The man was handsome while the woman was pretty. They were clearly born and raised in a powerful clan, naturally radiating with an aura of nobility. Due to their rather similar appearances, they seemed like a pair of siblings. Behind the two of them were 12 black-clothed middle-aged men. They each wore expressionless faces with cold eyes. There's actually a small clan around here that's taken the name of Changyang. This is absolutely absurd. How can our Changyang clan's name be used so casually by others? This time, we need to properly punish these impudent people, the young lady said resentfully. She was extremely angry. The young man beside her smiled bitterly. "Sister, don't mind these things too much. The continent is so vast, and there are countless people with the same names and surnames. It's not impossible to encounter a clan that's also taken up Changyang as its name. We only need to change their names when we go there this time. Don't go overboard." The woman's anger finally subsided slightly with what the man had said. After a slight hesitation, she said, "Brother, you're right. All right. We only need to get them to change their names. We don't need to punish them. Also, sister, our main mission heading out this time was to look for information on the winged tiger god. Don't get too absorbed in messing around along the way. Look at you. All you've done ever since we left the clan is to go sightseeing. How have you focused on the mission at all?" The man said heavy-heartedly. His gaze towards the lady was filled with affection, as well as some helplessness. The lady immediately became down and dejectedly said, "I understand, brother. You don't need to say it. While I only seemed to be sightseeing along the way, wasn't I still looking for information on the winged tiger god?" The two people headed in the direction of Lore City as they chatted. Although they were all only Heaven Saint Masters, their flying speed still greatly exceeded that of an ordinary Heaven Saint Master. As a result, they reached Lore City very quickly. By this time, the 500,000 soldiers from the Eastern Deity Swords had already disappeared, all returned to the Qinhuang Kingdom. "Sister, below us is the Changyang clan's manor. Let's head down," the young man said as he pointed towards the rather large estate below. The lady furrowed her fine eyebrows when she saw the grand estate. A sliver of dissatisfaction immediately appeared in her eyes, and with a soft sneer, she descended with the man. The dozen or so Heaven Saint Masters descended from the sky, radiating with a powerful aura. They landed directly inside the estate, alerting everyone there. Immediately, a large group of guards surrounded them from all directions. They all stared vigilantly at the unwelcomed guests with stern expressions. "How dare you intrude the Changyang manor? Are you tired of living? Hurry up and name yourselves," the captain of the guards called out. Even though there were 14 powerful Heaven Saint Masters, the captain showed no fear as the fourth young master of the clan was a true saint ruler. You're the ones who are tired of living, to actually use the name of the Changyang clan without permission. How are you? And then you act so disrespectful towards me. Do you believe that I wouldn't immediately cut off your tongue?" The lady placed her hands on her hips and eyed the captain threateningly. She was extremely unruly. The captain's face drooped. Just as he was about to speak, he discovered Chang Wuji walking over from the other side. His expression immediately became courteous, and he said, "I greet the head caretaker." Chang Wuji grimly walked over from behind. He observed the Heaven Saint Masters that had suddenly appeared with narrowed eyes. But he immediately jerked when he saw the sun-like image on the chests of the black-clothed men. In that instant, his expression became a complicated mix of emotions. The siblings also discovered Chang Wuji's arrival. They immediately turned their attention to him, and the woman's rude voice rang out once again. "Bring out the patriarch for me." Chang Wuji stared complicatedly at the rude young lady and the prudent young man. He said, "What are your names?" Chang Wuji's voice was actually carried an extremely rare slight trembling. The lady remained expressionless and glared at Uncle Chang. She said, You still don't have the right to learn my name. Immediately bring your patriarch here. I don't have that much time." Before the lady could finish speaking, she was interrupted by the young man extending his hand. The man eyed the lady helplessly and smiled bitterly. "Sister, that's enough. Stop playing around. Just how many times have you thrown your weight around? Haven't you played enough?" The lady's rude expression immediately disappeared. "Brother, can't you just let me play around a bit more? I've heard long ago that as long as you have strength on the Tianyuan continent, you can casually bully other people. I've come out finally after so much difficulty. Can't you just let me try it out a little more? Sister, we've come out to handle matters, not to play." The young man's expression was filled with helplessness. He really was powerless over his sister. "All right, I understand." The lady turned around depressedly. She was very unhappy. The man no longer paid any more attention to the lady. He turned to Chang Wuji and asked, "Is the head of the clan here?" "The patriarch has recently passed away, and a new patriarch has not been designated yet. All matters of the clan are temporarily handled by this old servant." Uncle Chang said, "All right, then I'll cut to the chase and say it directly. You can't use the Changyang clan as the name of your clan. You should change it," the young man said calmly. The surrounding guards were all stunned as soon as they heard what was said. Soon they stared at the man like they were staring at an idiot. "Presumptuous brat. You're the first person who's ever dared to tell us to change names since my Changyang clan's been established." An old voice boomed angrily. Several dozen founding members walked out, all staring at the man angrily. The lady furrowed her eyebrows. Just when she was going to speak out, what Uncle Chang said next completely stunned the two of them. "I wonder which branch of the Zhu, Yuan and Qing branches you are from," Uncle Chang said with a rather trembling voice. After staring blankly for a while, the lady immediately became wide-eyed. She stared at Uncle Chang in disbelief and cried out, I'm impossible H. Ho. How do you know about the matters of our Changyang clan? Just who are you? Are you perhaps a member of my Changyang clan?" The young man was also filled with shock. Their Changyang clan was a protector clan, one that stayed within an alternate space and was kept sealed all year round. Very few people knew about their existence in the outside world. Yet the old man before him, a mere Heaven Saint Master, had mentioned the matter of the three branches as soon as he began speaking. This absolutely astounded the young man, as this was an internal matter of the clan. Other than a few clans, which also protected the Tianyuan continent, very few people knew about it. Uncle Chang sighed gently. A sliver of reminiscence appeared in his eyes, and he said, "I wonder what old Madame Changyang Zuyan is to the two of you?" "Changyang Zuyan? That's the name of Grandma Yi. H. Ho. How do you know the name of my Grandma Yi?" The lady brought her hands to her lips, while her eyes had already become the size of bronze bells, staring fixedly at Uncle Chang. She was extremely shocked. Even the young man's calmness currently had ripples appear. He stared at Uncle Chang in disbelief. He was completely speechless. Chapter 802. Gathering at Changyang Manor 2. Perhaps you're also a member of my Changyang clan? Only after a long while did the lady return to her senses. She stared at Uncle Chang in complete shock. The young man was also astounded and awaited Uncle Chang's reply. Uncle Chang sighed at the sky and slowly closed his eyes. The memories that he had originally sealed up for countless years surged out like a tidal wave, forming images which constantly flashed across his eyes. Meanwhile, two turbid tears uncontrollably rolled down from his tightly closed eyes. All the guards and older members of the Changyang clan focused their attentions onto Uncle Chang, each at a loss and filled confusion. There were plenty of quick-witted people among them. Some had already realized some things from Uncle Chang's conversation with the siblings. However, including the old members of the clan, no one knew what relationship Uncle Chang had with the two siblings. Is there perhaps a second Changyang clan on the Tianyuan continent? And these two clans have some unknown relationship? In that very moment, many people thought of the same thing. The siblings from the protector Changyang clan said nothing. They bared complicated expressions while slivers of disbelief remained in their eyes. With how matters stood now, the two of them had already guessed that the Changyang clan of Lore City was perhaps not simply a small clan bearing the same name, but rather an existence that truly contained an unknown connection with the protector clan. After reaching that conclusion, an immediate change occurred to how the siblings looked at the various people of the Changyang clan. At this point, they had already abandoned the notion of changing this clan's name. After a long while, Uncle Chang finally opened his eyes slowly. He stared at the two siblings with extremely mixed emotions and said, "My name is Chang Wuji. When you go back, tell the old Madam Changyang Zuyian. She should know who I am." Chang Wuji, the siblings murmured. Their faces were filled with doubt, as the name did not bear the surname of Changyang. The Changyang clan had a total of 3 branches: the Zhu branch, the Yuan branch and the Qing branch. As long as they were a part of the Changyang clan, the first 2 characters of their name would be Changyang without any exceptions, while the third would either be Zhu, Yuan or Qing. It signified which branch the person was from. Only after those 3 characters would each person have their real name. Just from the 3 characters Chang Wuji, it was impossible for him to be from the Changyang clan, as the name was completely different. Even though they were filled with doubt, the siblings did not ask anything. The young man clasped his hands at Chang Yuji to bid farewell, before leaving the manor with the girl. High in the sky, the siblings lead the 12 Heaven Saint Master Guards flying off into the distance. The lady turned around and asked the man, "Brother, who do you think that person is? From his name he doesn't seem like a member of our clan, but he actually knows Grandma Ye's name. Perhaps he knows Grandma Ye?" The young man furrowed his eyebrows slightly. He was also swamped in confusion. "Sister, let's not guess randomly. We should quickly hurry home. The truth will naturally reveal itself after we tell this to Grandma Ye." As he spoke, the man pulled out a fist-sized piece of jade from his bosom. Closing his hand around it slightly, he immediately crushed the piece of jade to smithereens. An odd energy appeared from the piece of jade, and quickly formed a multicolored space gate before them. The siblings and the 12 guards disappeared into it immediately. When the brother and sister reappeared, they had already arrived in an unknown space. This space was extremely vast, like a small world. There were mountains and rivers in there, as well as various magical beasts. There were plenty of high-class magical beasts that were rarely seen on the Tianyuan continent as well. In the center of the space floated a huge piece of earth. On it stood many buildings, and the people were plentiful. It was like a busy city, while in the center of the floating land were many majestic palaces. Currently, in one of the many palaces, a white-dressed, middle-aged woman sat by the window. She stared outside sadly while a sliver of grief appeared in the depths of her eyes. A white-robed, middle-aged man slowly walked up to the woman's side and gently placed his hands on the woman's shoulder, massaging them. He said with a deep voice, "Yayan, are you still thinking of Kong?" The woman gently nodded her head and said dejectedly, "When Konger broke the rules of the clan, he almost brought on a calamity to our Changyang clan. Then his talent was sealed up by grandfather, to never be able to reach Saint Ruler in his life. It's been almost 1,000 years since Konger was born. I wonder if he's still alive? Just where is he? I really want to see Konger." The man sighed gently while a sliver of sorrow also appeared in his eyes. The Konger mentioned by the woman was their only son, born when they were Saint Rulers. At the same time, it was what pained the two of them the most. Centuries ago their son was expelled from the clan due to bringing disaster. His talent was also sealed up, so he would never able to reach Saint Ruler. He could only live for 1,000 years at most. Even though the two of them had some status in the clan, they had no power to prevent this, as the crime their son had committed was just too great. It almost made the space in which the Changyang clan inhabited collapse. Because of this, his wife, Changyang Zuyayan, always remained at the 9th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler. If she did not overcome this mental obstruction, she would never break through and reach Saint King. She would only have a life of 3,000 years. In the past, the two of them had thought of going out to go looking for their son, but they could do nothing about the fact that the space was sealed in all year round. With how great of a crime their son had committed, the various elders of the clan were unwilling to expend large amounts of energy to open the seal, just for the two of them to go looking for him. Now the space of the Changyang clan was finally unsealed with the intrusion of the Beast God continent. However, their primary mission for opening the space this time was to repel the Beast God continent's invasion, as well as to find the whereabouts of the winged tiger god. They just did not have any extra time to go searching for their long-lost son. Also, the continent was extremely vast. Unless they used the power of the entire clan, it would be like searching for a needle in a haystack. If just the two of them wanted to go searching for their son in the sea of people, even using a secret technique would not suffice. This was because the seal on their son did not just restrict his talent, it also sealed up his bloodline. Suddenly, the middle-aged man's expression changed. He said, "Yayan, the clan's already found a trace of the winged tiger god. It's currently with a young man by the name of Jianchen, and they've already found where Jianchen lives. Let's go. The elders of the clan are holding a meeting for this." Changyang Zuyin dismissed a few thought and stood up, walking outside side by side with the man. Grandma Yi. Just as the couple left through the main entrance, a young man and young woman suddenly ran over from the distance. Even from afar, they could hear the lady's callings. The two of them arrived beside Changyang Zuyin, and the lady immediately spoke out. "Grandma Yi, when brother and I were out searching for the tracks of the winged tiger god, we discovered a small clan that had the same name as us in a small city." Changyang Zuyin forcefully smiled and said gently, "Shower, the Tianyuan continent is very vast, and there are countless people. It's very common to have clans that carry the same name as us, so you don't need to take it too seriously." "I know, but Grandma Yi, there was an old man in that Changyang clan who seemed to know you, and even knew Grandma Ye's name." The lady continued while she stared at Changyang Zuyeyun, with eyes filled with curiosity. Changyang Zuyin stared vacantly, and immediately asked, "Shower, do you know that person's name?" "He said he's called Chang Wuji, and even said that Grandma Yi knows him," the lady called Shower said. "What? Chang Wuji?" Changyang Zuyin jerked violently, while her expression changed abruptly. Soon afterwards, even her petite body began to tremble slightly. "Chang Wuji? Isn't that the name of the servant that follows Kang? The man beside Changyang Zuyin cried out as his also expression changed. The middle-aged man was the husband of Changyang Zuyin, as well as one of the great elders of the Changyang clan. He was called Changyang Zuyinshao. Changyang Zuyin seemed to connect it with something, and immediately became excited. With her trembling body, even her voice began to tremble. Konger, it must be Konger. Konger must be there. Shower, quickly lead the way." Changyang Zuyin's voice was hurried. "Yunxiao, Yunfei, quickly tell us where you found Chang Wuji." Even Changyang Zuyinxiao's voice was hurried. "He's at." The young man immediately described the rough area where he had met Chang Wuji. Without the slightest deliberation, Changyang Zuyinxiao swung his hand, and the space before him split open. It formed a space gate, and they left with the siblings without paying any attention to the gathering of elders in the clan. In a majestic hall, 7 seats were placed side by side at the very end. 6 people of different ages sat there, while to no surprise one of them was Changyang Qinyin, the old man who had represented the Changyang clan at the meeting in Mercenary City. Meanwhile, several other people also of various ages sat beneath them. At this very moment, a gleam of light flashed across the eyes of the 6 people on the seats at the very end. They then all looked towards where the couple had split open the space to leave. "It's Changyang Zuyinshao." Why'd he suddenly split open the space and leave? Has something happened, perhaps? An old man asked in surprise as his eyes shone with a weird light. Whatever, let him be. Since he's not coming, we'll hold the meeting with just the 6 of us. Changyang Qingyun said indifferently. He was the most powerful of the 7 great elders, so he possessed an extremely great prestige. Currently, Uncle Chang stood all by himself in a pavilion in the garden on the Changyang estate in Lore City. His eyes were filled with the color of reminiscence, while a dozen or so old members stood behind him. They had come to gain an understanding of the truth behind what had happened. From the ruckus of the siblings before, they all understood one thing. There was another great secret hidden behind Uncle Chang, and the ancestor of the Changyang clan, that had disappeared centuries ago. A secret that none of them knew. The old Madame Changyang Zuyian had become the greatest query of those old members. She was a mysterious person that deserved to be referred to as the old madam by Uncle Chang. So her status was definitely something else. Currently, the older members had even begun suspecting the Changyang ancestor and Uncle Chang's backgrounds for the first time. Uncle Chang stood in the pavilion, staring dully at the fishes that swam around. Only after an extremely long amount of time did he sigh gently. Without even turning around, he said, "Don't ask anymore. You should learn the answer soon." At that very moment, the space above the manor suddenly split open. A multicolored space gate quickly appeared, and soon afterwards figures shot out of it with great speeds, one after another. Chapter 803. Gathering at Changyang Manor 3. In the blink of an eye, several dozen people appeared in the sky above the Changyang Manor. Most of them wore white robes, and rode on white clouds condensed from radiant saint force. They were radiant saint masters, while the other people were fighters of various ages and attires. The group of people quickly left the space gate, and surrounded the entire estate from the sky. One of the old men casually swung his hand, and a barrier enveloped the entire manor. The barrier even extended into the ground, cutting off any means of escape through secret passages in the earth. From the city of God of the Holy Empire, the people from the Radiant Saint Master Union had finally come. The sudden change in the situation raised the attentions of all those in the manor. The guards, who had relaxed after the departure of the siblings, became alarmed once again. They looked at the sky with grim expressions, and many of them immediately paled, especially when they saw the barrier around the entire manor. This was because they knew it was the doings of saint rulers. Uncle Chang also discovered the occurrence in the sky, and temporarily put his sorrows to one side. With a thought, he flew in the sky by controlling the energy of the world. He soon glanced past the many people, and when he saw the cloud-riding, white-robed Class 7, Radiant Saint Masters with purple badges, he immediately became extremely grim. "Senior, are you perhaps the people of the Radiant Saint Master Union from the City of God?" Uncle Chang clasped his hands at the people. He was extremely polite. The small Changyang clan below could not afford to offend the people before him. "Correct. We are people from the Union. This is my master, the president of the Radiant Saint Master Union. Why don't you hurry up and kneel before the president of the Union?" A middle-aged man beside the president cried out, as he pointed at Uncle Chang. He was the second disciple of the president, Yin Tian. Junior Chang Wuji greets the esteemed president. Uncle Chang quickly clasped his hands at the president, and spoke extremely politely. The president of the Radiant Saint Master Union indeed possessed strength worthy of his respect. However, he did not kneel, as other than a few people, such as his master that had disappeared for several centuries, and the old madam, he felt like no one else had the right to get him to kneel, even if it was the president of the union. Yun Tian immediately became angered when he saw that Uncle Chang did not kneel. He had enmity with Jianchen even before Jianchen took away the saint artifact. As it had severely hurt his chances at reaching Class 7, Yun Tian's hatred for Jianchen reached a bone-deep level. He was unwilling to easily let anyone who was related to Jianchen go. "Impudence! You, a mere servant, won't even kneel before the president of the union? You're courting death." Yin Tian cried out at Uncle Chang. "Yin Tian, don't be rude. The president extended a hand to stop Yin Tian. Although Jian Shen had taken the artifact of the Union, he also knew that the artifact had run to Jian Shen itself, and it was not Jian Shen who intended on taking it. As a result, the president did not want to weaken his relationship with Jian Shen because of the Changyang clan. After all, there was still room for fixing everything right now. The president clasped his hands slightly towards Uncle Chang and said, "I wonder where Jian Shen may be? Esteemed president, the fourth young master has already left. Even this old servant has no idea where he has gone." Uncle Chang said calmly, without becoming frantic at all, "Master, since Yang Yutian's not here, we might as well invite all the people of this Changyang clan to our union. Once Yang Yutian comes back, we can directly get him to come to the union to pick them up." Yun Tian said from beside the president. The president did not reply to Yun Tian, and instead continued, "Do you perhaps know when Jian Shen will return?" Unless push came to pull, the president did not want to offend Jian Shen's family so easily. If he had angered Jian Shen could hide the artifact or gift it to another powerful organization. That would be the union's irrevocable loss. This old servant also has no idea when the fourth young master will return. Uncle Chang said, "President, we might as well do what Yun Tian suggested and take these people away. As long as we have control over these people, I don't believe Jian Shen won't just obediently hand over the artifact." An elder from the union suggested from behind, "President, I support this idea. We have no idea when Yang Yutian will return, and we can't always leave so many people here. And there must be Yang Yutian's relatives in this group of people. As long as we have control over them, he'll appear very quickly." Another elder seconded. After a while of thought, the president agreed to their suggestion in the end. He said, "That's the only thing we can do right now. All the people of the Changyang clan, please come and stay a few days at my union. Once Jian Shen returns the union's artifact, I will personally release you all." Hearing that, Uncle Chang darkened. He said, "If the fourth young master does not return for a century, does that mean that the union will hold us as prisoners for a century as well?" "Correct," the president replied expressionlessly. He could not wait 100 years. He really had no idea what the union would turn out to be like after a century. A sliver of anger appeared on Uncle Chang's face. He said coldly, "Your union might be powerful, but you still don't have the right to suppress the people of my Changyang clan." With that, all the people from the union changed in expression. What Uncle Chang had said was essentially completely overlooking the union. It sparked a flame of anger in them. People who had led comfortable lives because of the union. "You're looking to die." A middle-aged man in tight clothes immediately roared out angrily. With a palm strike, the invisible world force surged towards Uncle Chang, while the space around him froze too in that very instant. He was completely immobilized. The invisible world force mercilessly collided with Uncle Chang. With a groan, he immediately turned sheet white and constantly spat out mouthfuls of blood. At the same time, the space around Uncle Chang returned to how it was before. He no longer remained levitating and fell out of the sky. Below, several Earth Saint Masters all cried out in alarm. Immediately, several of them shot over to catch the falling Uncle Chang. Every single one of them were currently filled with worry. They knew that this time, the Changyang clan faced an extremely great problem. They had directly offended the Radiant Saint Master Union. They were a heavyweight power from the Holy Empire, much more powerful than Qinhuang Kingdom of the Eight Great Kingdoms. The man who struck out glanced at Uncle Chang coldly. He said, "Even a tiny clan dares to act so presumptuously before the Radiant Saint Master. You really don't know how to live. I'll let you off this time. If there's a second time, I'll execute you on the spot. I won't be holding back." The disparity between Heaven Saint Masters and Saint Rulers was just too large. All those below Saint Ruler were ants. Even though Uncle Chang had reached the peak as a Heaven Saint Master, he remained as fragile as ever before a Saint Ruler. No one could stop what the middle-aged man had done, even if it was the president or the Grand Elder. Although they did not want to fall out with Jian Shen, they had their own bottom lines. What Uncle Chang had said before was already pushing the boundaries of the union. The president looked towards an old white-haired man. He requested, I will be troubling Elder Jia to bring everyone back to the headquarters. The old man nodded slightly before directly ripping open the space. He set up a space gate to the headquarters of the Union, about to take all the people from the clan back to the headquarters of the Union. Bang! Suddenly, with a muffled sound, the huge barrier around the manor was shattered. 4 figures had appeared outside the barrier at an unknown time. 2 were male while the other 2 were female. They were the couple and siblings from the Protector Changyang clan. All the people from the Union immediately gathered their attentions towards the 4 people who had suddenly appeared. A middle-aged man immediately called out, "Who are you? Name yourselves." Changyang Zuyayun and Changyang Zuyinshao glanced past the people from the Union, before quickly losing interest. Changyang Zuyinshao murmured softly, "Why has the Radiant Saint Master Union come? Yunfei Yinshao, is this the place you were talking about?" Grandpa Yinshao, Grandma Yi, that's correct. This is the place. Changyang Zhu Yunfei replied as he glanced past all the people below. Finally, he found the heavily injured Chang Wuji on the floor and immediately pointed. He said, "It's him, Grandpa Yinshao, Grandma Yi. He's the one who claimed to be Chang Wuji." Changyang Zhu Yinshao and Changyang Zhu Yin narrowed their eyes and gathered their attention at Chang Wuji. Shortly afterwards, both of them gently shook before suddenly appearing next to Chang Wuji in the next moment. The light in their eyes flickered while they looked at Chang Wuji with a rare excitement. At this time Chang Wuji was already an old man in his 70s. His appearance had undergone a complete change from before, so the couple could not recognize him for some time. You're Chang Wuji?" Changyang Zuyin asked with uncertainty. Her voice was filled with hope. Currently she was extremely tense, and she worried about whether or not this was the Chang Wuji she was searching for. The older members of the Changyang clan around Chang Wuji all looked at each other, while they glanced at the middle-aged couple from time to time. They all could guess the couple's identity, but none of them dared to speak out. They were definitely saint rulers to be able to break a barrier cast down by saint rulers. Looking at the middle-aged woman, Chang Wuji immediately became moved. Turbid tears immediately began to run down his face like a hot spring. He struggled as he attempted to stand up, and said with a trembling voice, Old madam. Old master, this servant is Chang Wuji." Chang Wuji greets the old madam and old master, cough 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 cough. Uncle Chang had been struck by a blow from a saint ruler. Even though the person had held back, he was heavily injured to the point that he even struggled to speak, stuttering a lot. Towards the end he uncontrollably coughed up another few mouthfuls of blood, dyeing his clothes red. Chapter 804. Gathering at Changyang Manor 4. Chang Wuji, it really is you. Chang Wuji's calls of old madam and old master towards Changyang Zuyun and Changyang Zuyinshao had undoubtedly proved his identity. With that, Changyang Zuyin no longer doubted Chang Wuji and immediately cried out. Her voice was filled with utmost joy. To Changyang Zuyin, finding Chang Wuji was equivalent to finding her long-lost son. The person she truly cared for was not Chang Wuji, but rather her son. Chang Wuji, where's Konger? Where is Konger? You initially left the clan with Konger. You're definitely with Konger, right? Tell me just where my Konger is. Changyang Zuyin's trembling voice was filled with urgency. Currently, her heart that had suffered for centuries finally became excited for the first time. She had never been so excited, so joyful, ever since her son had been expelled from the clan centuries ago. Master, he. Seeing his old madam and master, Chang Wuji also became extremely excited. His weak voice was inarticulate, and he coughed heavily from his heavy injuries. He spat out a few mouthfuls of blood, some of it even landing on the clothes of Changyang Zuyin and Changyang Zuyinshao. Changyang Zuyinshao immediately produced a pill from his space ring and fed it to Uncle Chang. The pill was a saintly medicine made specially by the Changyang clan and contained countless precious heavenly resources. Its value was even on par to high-class radiant spirit pills. Consuming the pill, Uncle Chang's injuries that had constantly worsened finally stabilized, already taking a good turn. Looking at the heavily injured Chang Wuji, Changyang Zuyinshao darked a lot as a powerful killing intent appeared in his eyes. He said with a deep voice, Chang Wuji, who injured you? Uncle Chang looked at the group of people from the Radiant Saint Master Union in the sky and said weakly, "It's the people from the Radiant Saint Master Union. They want to force everyone to go to the city of God. How dare they?" Changyang Zhu Yinshao was instantly angered. A powerful aura immediately began to radiate from him, enveloping the surrounding space. The aura was filled with an extremely dense killing intent. Even in the past centuries, Changyang Zhu Yinshao had never become so angered. Although the Radiant Saint Master Union was an organization that stood on the apex of the Tianyuan continent, equal to ancient clans, they were as weak as ants before the protector Changyang clan. They were completely overshadowed by the Changyang clan. And now his son, the son of one of the 7 great elders, had founded a clan outside that was actually being trampled like this by the Radiant Saint Master Union. How is it possible for Changyang Zhu Yinshao to not be mad? At the same time, he also thought about how much suffering his son would have went through in all these years. As a father, this caused immense grief to Changyang Zhu Yinshao. With a tremble on his body, he immediately appeared high in the sky, staring coldly at the people from the Union. He called out coldly, "Who dares injure the people of the Changyang clan? Stand forward. Otherwise, you'll all be suffering the punishment together." The people of the Union looked at each other, all extremely grim. They could already vaguely guess that Changyang Zhu Yinshao was a Saint King. This had completely exceeded what the Union had anticipated for the Changyang clan. To have a Saint King supporting it. "Sir, may I ask who you are?" An old voice sounded from behind. It was an old man with a hoarse voice. He seemed powerless, like an old man at the doors of death. The old man was the same old man who Jian Chun had initially met in the Radiant Saint Tower, wiping the furniture with a cloth. At the same time, he was a powerful Saint King. "Zhu Yinshao of Changyang," he said expressionlessly. Hearing the name, those who had some understandings of the 10 protector clans in the group from the Union all changed greatly in expression. They stared at him in shock, while fear seeped out from the depths of their gazes. The president immediately clasped his hands at Changyang Zhu Yinshao and asked sternly, "Is Sir perhaps a member from the Zhu branch of the Zhu, Yuan and Qing branches of the protector clans?" Immediately, all the people from the Union became heavy-hearted. At first they had thought that the Changyang clan in Lore City was just a small clan with a name that coincided with the protector clan. Never did they think that the connection between the two was not just the same name, and that the Lore City one had a rather special connection with the higher levels of the protector clan. As soon as the words of the president was heard by the older members of the Changyang clan, they all shook violently, while an indescribable light flickered in their eyes. They did not know about the 3 branches of the protector clan, but they saw the fear in the people from the Union. They had already guessed that the protector clan was definitely a clan even more powerful than the Union. This revived their despaired hearts instantly, as if they had all seen the light of hope. Changyang Zhu Yinshao stared coldly at the president and said slowly, "You sure do know some stuff, even knowing about the 3 branches of the Changyang clan." Afterwards, Changyang Zhu Yinshao slowly glanced past all the people and said, "Who was it that injured the person from my Changyang clan? If you don't talk now, I can only throw you all on the punishment list." The group of people all became ugly. They could not afford to offend a protector clan, no matter what, and had even put away all the arrogance that had already seeped to their bones. They did not dare to show even a sliver of it. Meanwhile, the middle-aged man who had injured Uncle Chang became extremely ugly and floated there blankly, unwilling to speak. He was already filled with regret. It was him who injured Uncle Chang. At this very moment, a gentle voice sounded from below. Standing in the ground, the azure-robed Yu Fengyan pointed towards the man who had injured Uncle Chang and spoke out loudly, while her face was filled with anger. "Yeah, it was he who injured Uncle Chang. You need to avenge Uncle Chang." After what Yu Fengyan said, the various senior members of the clan all pointed to the middle-aged man. They were all extremely mad. With how everything was now, they could already guess that the couple who had suddenly appeared definitely had some deep connection with the Changyang clan. Changyang Zhu Yinshao's glaring eyes landed on the man, and he immediately roared, Even a mere saint ruler dares to injure the people of my Changyang clan? Die. With that, Changyang Zhu Yunxiao appeared silently before the middle-aged man, and he extended his hand, reaching towards his head. At the same time, the man's surrounding space froze, trapping and immobilizing him. At this very moment, the old man appeared out of nowhere before the man being attacked, and directly threw a punch that collided with Changyang Zhu Yunxiao's palm. Bang! With a muffled sound, the strikes from the Saint Kings caused the surrounding space to tremble violently, even though they had controlled their strengths very well. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao's gaze became slightly cold. He said icily, "You dare to stop me? Sir, although it was a person from our union who injured your clansman, he is not dead. I hope sir can be merciful and let him off." The old man clasped his hands. "Piss off." Killing intent exploded in Changyang Zhu Yunxiao's heart. With a sneer, he threw another palm strike at the old man. It was clearly much more powerful, as wherever it passed it would create a crack in space. The Saint King from the Union became grim. With a deep shout, his skinny stick-like hand, clad in vast world force, shot towards Changyang Zhu Yunxiao to catch his strike. He definitely could not let a saint ruler of the Union die, because of a small mistake like this. They could not afford to lose saint rulers, even though they were the Radiant Saint Master Union. This was because there were not many experts in the Union, so every single one of them was extremely important. They were the main force of the Union. The two hands collided mid-air with great amounts of world force. Silently, the surrounding space shook, causing all of it in a radius of several dozen meters to crack like a mirror. With that strike, the Saint King from the Union paled slightly. He immediately shot backwards in retreat. Meanwhile, Changyang Zhu Yunxiao stood steadily in the air, without taking a single step backwards. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao then took a step, and appeared before the saint ruler, who had injured Chang Wuji once again. He said coldly, "Those who injure people of my Changyang clan will never be forgiven." With that, Changyang Zhu Yunxiao extended his hand, striking the saint ruler's head. The saint ruler was already trapped, and was unable to move at all. He could not even dodge Changyang Zhu Yunxiao's palm strike. The hand directly shook his brains into mush and destroyed his origin soul. He was already dead as blood spurted out from his eyes, nose, mouth and ears. After killing off the saint ruler, Changyang Zhu Yunxiao eyed the Saint King, that he had knocked away with a single strike coldly. "If you want to be reckless like that again, I'll kill you too. You're still not my opponent with your second heavenly layer strength." The Saint King was angry, but he did not dare to refute. A while later, he finally produced a soft sigh while his face was ashen. He indeed could not offend the Changyang clan of the Protector clans. If it went overboard, even the Radiant Saint Master Union would be sucked in, and suffer the devastating attacks of the Changyang clan. Today, the Union could only forcefully accept this loss. Changyang Zuyin did not pay any attention to the battle above. She squatted beside Chang Wuji, and asked urgently, "Chang Wuji, quickly tell me just where my Conger is right now. What is his situation?" After being treated with the saintly medicine, Chang Wuji's injuries had already recovered by a lot. He stood up from the ground with some difficulty and said bitterly, "Old madam, master's already left centuries ago. He went outside to look for a method to break through the seal, and there's been no sound of him even up until now." "What? Conger he?" Changyang Zuyin immediately became lost. She, originally filled with hope, became despaired with what Uncle Chang had said. She originally thought that she would definitely find her long-lost son, Changyang Zuyin Kong, as long as she found Chang Wuji, but never did she think it would turn out like this. Chapter 805, Gathering at Changyang Manor 5, tears poured uncontrollably from Changyang Zuyin's eyes. She sobbed, Conger, just where are you? Do you know how much Mum misses you?" Changyang Zuyin's voice was filled with sorrow. Changyang Zhu Yinkong was her only son, and even she no longer knew how much she had cried for him. It was so bad that even her strength remained at a standstill, stopping at the 9th heavenly layer of Saint Ruler for hundreds of years. It prevented her from breaking through. This was because her son had already become a mental obstruction, one that was extremely difficult to overcome. If she could not overcome it, she would never be able to reach Saint King. She would only have 3,000 years to live. Changyang Zhu Yinxiao arrived beside Changyang Zhu Yeyun. He too was heavy-hearted, and upon seeing his wife's sorrowful figure, he could not help but secretly sigh. He comforted, "Yeyun, don't feel too bad. I believe there will be one day where we find Kong. Didn't Kong found this Changyang clan? He'll return someday." Senior Changyang Zhu Yinxiao. Does that mean that Jianchen is also a member of the Changyang clan? A forceful voice sounded from above. It was the president of the Radiant Saint Master Union, who eyed the couple fixedly. A gleam of light flickered in his eyes. He was thinking of something. Jianchen. Changyang Zhu Yinxiao mumbled as a sliver of doubt appeared in his eyes. He naturally did not know about Jianchen, as he did not participate in the elders' discussion back at the clan. Old Master, Jianchen's original name is Changyang Xiangtian. He's the fourth young master of our Changyang clan, and is also an unprecedented genius of the continent. He's 24 this year, and is already a saint ruler. Chang Wuji explained on the side. Hearing that, a gleam of light flashed across Changyang Zhu Yinxiao's eyes. A sliver of disbelief appeared on his face, and he exclaimed with a deep voice, "Reaching saint ruler as a 24-year-old? How is that possible?" What Uncle Chang said had shocked Changyang Zhu Yinxiao greatly. For someone to reach saint ruler at such a young age, terrifying could no longer be used to describe the person's talent. This was definitely unprecedented in all of history on the Tianyuan continent. The president continued, "Senior Changyang Zhu Yinxiao, Jianchen's taken away the saint artifact that had existed in the Union for countless years. We've only come this time to take it back, and we have no other intentions. I hope that when Jianchen returns, he can return the artifact to the Union." With that, the president paused. After a slight deliberation, he continued, "And according to what I know, the winged tiger god is with him." Hearing that, Changyang Zhu Yinxiao was no longer able to remain calm. He immediately cried out, "What? The winged tiger god is with Jianchen?" However, a sliver of wild excitement appeared on his face soon after. Jianchen was a member of the Changyang clan. Since the ancient beast god followed Jianchen, didn't it mean that the winged tiger god was already in the Changyang clan's control? This was an absolutely huge piece of news to the Changyang clan. Changyang Zuyin also suppressed her sorrow, revealing an expression of shock. The 10 protector clans had utilized the entire continent to search for the winged tiger god, yet it actually turned out to be with a descendant of the Changyang clan. This was extremely significant. The older members and guards of the clan were also stunned by this. In the past few days, the news of the winged tiger god had spread through the Jessen kingdom like wildfire. The news of the search for the winged tiger god was everywhere. But they had never even considered that the winged tiger god was with their fourth young master Changyang Xiangtian. Suddenly, the space above the Changyang clan began to ripple violently. A multicolored space gate condensed extremely quickly, and many figures shot out from it one by one. In the blink of an eye, another several dozen people, all in the same attire, appeared above the manor. Although they carried no aura at all, they all floated in the air without using the energy of the world. They had all clearly reached Saint Ruler. A gleam of light flashed across Changyang Zhu Yinxiao's eyes. He slowly scanned past all the people, and finally became grim once again. He said gruffly, "I'd never have thought that the people of the Yangji sect would also appear here." Changyang Zhu Yinxiao understood all 10 protector clans very well with his status, and with a glance he could tell that the Yangji sect had basically sent everything they had. Other than the invasion of the beast god continent, only the winged tiger god could make the Yangji sect dispatch so many people. I'd never think that one of the 7 great elders of the Changyang clan, Changyang Zhu Yinxiao, would be here. "Greetings, earnest greetings." A ruddy old man eyed Changyang Zhu Yinxiao calmly as he smiled slightly. He was one of the great elders of the Yangji sect. He was called Chun Yangzi, and he was the most powerful person in the sect both in strength and authority. A burly, middle-aged man stood forwards from beside Chun Yangzi. He stared expressionlessly at Changyang Zhu Yinxiao and said, "Changyang Zhu Yinxiao, have you also come for the winged tiger god?" At that moment, Changyang Zhu Yinxiao completely believed what the president said. The winged tiger god was indeed with a descendant of the Changyang clan. After a period of silence, Changyang Zhu Yunxiao said, "This is a branch clan established outside by my Changyang clan. Fellow friends of the Yangji sect, I hope you will not interfere with matters of our branch clan." Hehe, naturally we will not be interfering. The main reason we've come this time is to capture someone called Jian Chen, who is also called Changyang Xiangtian. He wiped out an outside branch sect established by us. He cannot be forgiven, or would the dignity of the Yangji sect still exist? Chen Yangzi smiled. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao's face darkened. He said, "Changyang Xiangtian is a member of my Changyang clan. You still don't have the right to take him. Brother Yunxiao must be joking. Your Changyang clan only has the 3 branches of Zhu, Yun and Qing. There is no Xiang branch. How can Changyang Xiangtian be a member of your Changyang clan? And this Changyang clan does not have anyone with Zhu, Yuan or Qing in their name. How is it possible for them to be a part of your protector clan?" Chen Yangzi remained smiling. At the same time, he secretly cast a secret technique, searching for Jian Chen's presence. However, when he searched through the entire kingdom, he could not feel the presences of any other saint rulers than the ones gathered at the manor. Perhaps Jian Chen isn't here? Or did he use an extremely profound method to conceal his presence? How would it be possible for him to escape my search? Chen Yangzi thought before waving his hand. He said, "Take all those close to Jian Chen back to the sect. There must be an explanation for wiping out a branch sect of my Yangji sect. I want to see who dares." Changyang Zhu Yunxiao roared. He immediately shot into the sky, meeting the people of the Yangji sect. A sky-surging presence radiated from his body. Chen Yangzi's complexion darkened slightly. He was slightly angry. "Changyang Zhu Yunxiao, do you intend on declaring war with my Yangji sect? This Changyang clan was founded by my son, Changyang Zhu Yinkong. All the descendants in there are members of my Changyang clan. You don't have the right to take away any of them. If you really do insist, so what if a battle erupts?" Changyang Zhu Yunxiao said with a deep voice, and his aura increased abruptly. "Changyang Qingyan's not here. You're not my opponent." Chen Yangzi's voice became cold. For the winged tiger god, he would not let up at all. At that very moment, the surrounding space began to ripple violently once more. Space gates appeared at the same time in the surroundings, and people of different attires began pouring out of them in a continuous stream. At that very moment, all the people of the 10 protector clans had gathered. Even the other 6 great elders of the Changyang clan had come, leading many saint rulers. The 10 protector clans had sent everything they had. One reason for this was to us an absolute superiority in power to suppress the clan, an attempt to steal the winged tiger god first. The other reason was to prevent the experts of the beast god continent from breaking their agreement and intruding the Tian Yuan continent to take the winged tiger god from them after they had found it. As a result, the forces the 10 protector clans had brought were not any weaker than when they had repelled the beast god continent's invasion earlier. "Yunxiao, Yin, why are you here?" From the Changyang clan group, an old man discovered the couple, and a sliver of surprise immediately appeared in his eyes. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao immediately revealed an expression of respect. This old man was the most senior member from the Zhu branch, as well as his great-grandfather, Changyang Zhu Xiao great-grandfather. This Changyang clan does not just have the same name. It was originally founded by Konger. Changyang Zhu Yunxiao said. He knew very well that the 10 protector clans had all received some information. If he wanted to protect the clan established by his son, he could only bring up the origins of it. What? That kid Konger established a clan outside? Changyang Zhu Xiao was slightly surprised. Before he came he had known that there was a Changyang clan in Lore City, but he had thought it was just a clan with the same name. He did not think too much about it. Closely afterwards, Changyang Zhu Xiao seemed to think of something. He immediately asked, "Yunxiao, then what's Jian Chen's identity?" "Great-grandfather. Jian Chen's original name is Changyang Xiangtian. He's also a member of our Changyang clan," Changyang Zhu Yunxiao answered. All the people from the Changyang clan were shocked. Immediately, someone could not help it but speak out with a low voice. "This Changyang Xiangtian is actually a member of our Changyang clan. Doesn't that mean the winged tiger god is with a descendant of our Changyang clan? The great elders all looked at each other. This piece of news was just too shocking to all of them. None of them had ever thought that the winged tiger god that they painstakingly searched for would be with a descendant of their own clan. Chapter 806. The Arctic Ice God Hall. After a while of speechlessness, the authoritative great elders of the Changyang clan all chuckled aloud. They all felt extremely at ease. Initially, the 10 protector clans had all learned some information about the winged tiger god from the Grand Elder of Mercenary City, Tianjian. They all knew that it was currently with a talented young man, but none of them had ever imagined that it would be someone from the Changyang clan of the 10 protector clans. Since the winged tiger god was with a disciple of their clan, who it belonged to in the end, had already become undebatable. Perhaps they did not even need to force it into a contract, either. The Changyang clan already had the right to raise it. This was because the winged tiger god following someone on its own, as well as developing such close feelings with that person, was akin to it already accepting an owner. Right now the great elders of the Changyang clan were not stupid enough to ask who founded Lore City's Changyang clan, or if the clan really was a branch or not. It was like raining pies for their Changyang clan. They were not stupid enough to just miss out on it. Haha, what an absurd joke. Changyang clan. This story woven by you is just too hilarious. Other than your Zhu, Yuan and Qing 3 branches, there aren't any other side branches. Why wouldn't we know that? This Changyang clan here clearly only has the same name. It has no other connections to your protector clan. Loud laughter erupted from above. A young man approaching his late 20s stared at the people from the Changyang clan with a sneer. Correct? And Changyang Xiangtian's name isn't from any of your 3 branches. The middle-aged man beside the young man said with a face full of ridicule. They both were great elders from the Moyuan clan. Changyang Zhu Yinshao stared coldly at the 2 people and sneered. This Changyang clan was founded by my son Changyang Zhu Yingkong. The power of the Changyang clan bloodline flows in the veins of all the descendants in there. So they're naturally people from the protector Changyang clan. I think I've heard about this Changyang Zhu Yingkong. Isn't he the person who intruded on the forbidden grounds of the Changyang clan, disturbed the emperor armament, and almost caused the space your Changyang clan inhabits to collapse? If I recall correctly, that person seems to have already been expelled by the clan. He's no longer a member of your Changyang clan. The young man from the Moyuan clan giggled. All the people from the Changyang clan became ugly. Shortly afterwards, Changyang Qingyin immediately spoke out. Right now, I, Changyang Qingyin, declare in the name of a great elder of the Changyang clan that Changyang Zhu Yingkong's punishment shall be annulled, and that he shall be reaccepted into the clan. Changyang Zhu Yinshao rejoiced. He said, I, Changyang Zhu Yinshao, declare in the name of a great elder of the Changyang clan that Changyang Zhu Yingkong's punishment shall be annulled, and that he shall be reaccepted into the clan. I, Changyang Zhu Shao, declare in the name of a great elder of the Changyang clan that Changyang Zhu Yingkong's punishment shall be annulled, and that he shall be reaccepted into the clan. I, Changyang. All the great elders annulled Changyang Zhu Yingkong's punishment, one after another. The 7 of them held the highest positions in the clan. If they all reached an agreement, they could make decisions for the entire clan. Changyang Zuyin became extremely excited while turbid tears flowed from her eyes. She sobbed. Konga, are you seeing this? The clans annulled your punishment. You've returned back to the clan. They're no longer persecuting you for your mistakes all those years ago. Konga, where are you? So what if your Changyang clan drops the punishments for Changyang Zhu Yingkong? Does your Changyang clan really think you can take the winged tiger god for yourselves so easily? In addition, your clansman Changyang Xiangtian wiped out a branch sect established by my Yangji sect. You must provide us with a satisfying explanation. Chen Yangzi spoke aloud. Changyang Qingyin, the winged tiger god might be with a descendant from the Changyang clan, but it's impossible if your clan wants to take the winged tiger god for yourselves just because of this. The ancient beast god is related to a lot of extremely important matters, so it should be raised by all 10 of the protector clans. We should raise it into the guardian beast of the Tianyuan continent. It will not belong to any of us. A white-robed, graceful-looking, middle-aged man said. He was a great elder from the Patian sect. You're right. I completely support that suggestion. The winged tiger god should be raised by all 10 protector clans. It must not become a guardian beast for just one of the clans among us. The speaker was a sage-like old man. He was one of the ancestors of the Heaven's Incense School. Other than the people from the Pure Heart Pavilion, who remained quiet, the 9 other clans all began arguing fiercely. They all wanted their own clans to obtain the right to raise the winged tiger god, but they did not want it to be controlled by the other clans. This was because once the winged tiger god truly matured, it would definitely surpass Saint Emperor. At that time, perhaps no one within the entire world would be able to fight it. The owner could sweep away the entire world, and even wiping out the protector clans would be as easy as pie. As a result, the protector clans definitely could not let any other person come into control of it so easily. Whoever controlled the winged tiger god would become the overlord of this world in the future. The Changyang clan faced the powerful opposition of the 8 clans, and immediately felt a headache. They knew quite well that if they took the winged tiger god for themselves, the resistance they faced would become an unspoken disaster. Suddenly, the surrounding temperature abruptly dropped. A cold aura descended from the sky, immediately turning the surrounding area into a land of extreme cold. Flakes of snow filled the entire sky, covering the sun and suppressing its scorching rays. Meanwhile, the ground of the Changyang Manor was covered in a layer of silvery white frost in an extremely short amount of time, causing the guards and servants to shiver. They all stared at the sky full of snow that had suddenly appeared, tongue-tied, with disbelief flooding their eyes. The sudden snowstorm enveloped a radius of tens of thousands of kilometers. Within that area, the scorching weather immediately became ice-cold, stunning countless people. Because it was currently a sweltering summer, the scorching sun would bake the earth every day like an oven to a stifling level. Why would there suddenly be snow in a season like this? The 10 clans gathered at the manor were also stunned by the sudden snow. Everyone looked up as a light flickered through their eyes. They seemed to be able to see through the obstructing snowflakes and pierce through the void, while every single one of them became extremely grim. This is the Arctic Ice God Hall. The pavilion master of the Pure Heart Pavilion eyed the sky sternly and said with a deep voice. As soon as the pavilion master finished what she was saying, a humongous divine hall slowly materialized in the vast expanse of whiteness. It exceeded tens of thousands of meters in both length and width, and it seemed to have appeared by ripping through space. Received by the sky full of snow, it slowly descended with a shocking bearing. It really is the Arctic Ice God Hall. Doesn't this Ice God Hall never interfere in anything to do with the Tianyuan continent? Even the war between the 3 races in the ancient times did not alarm it. So why has their divine hall descended here right now? Perhaps they've also come for the winged tiger god. A great elder from the Heaven's Incense School said gruffly. He was extremely solemn. The huge divine hall slowly descended from the sky, falling towards the manor. With its descent, a huge shadow loomed over half of the city, causing all those in it to pale in fear. Various cries with terror erupted from various places. Uncle Chong and the others were stunned by this sight. Each one of them stared blankly at the sky. None of them returned to them senses, as this scene had already completely exceeded what many of them could bear psychologically. The huge divine hall stopped 1,000 meters above the manor. The snow danced about happily around the hall, forming a hazy white fog that partially concealed it. The hall would come in and out of sight from time to time, producing an additional mysterious feel. Soon afterwards, a large group of people slowly floated down from the hall in the snowy air, like gods descending from heaven. The person leading the group was a female dressed in white. She seemed to be in her 20s and possessed alluring beauty. Her snow-white long hair floated about in the bone-chilling air, while behind her several dozen people of various ages stood courteously. All of their gazes towards the lady were filled with a respect stemming from the depths of their hearts. As the people from the hall slowly landed onto the land of the manor, The leading lady's eyes were filled with sparkling tears. Her face was filled with an unconcealable excitement as she observed the Chongyang manor. The group of people from the Ice God Hall naturally became the focus of everyone present. Especially the leading lady. She became someone that even the 10 protector clans paid great attention to. Uncle Chong and all the old members of the Chongyang clan all focused on the girl. When Uncle Chong recognized her, his eyes narrowed abruptly and disbelief immediately flooded his eyes. TTT, this is definitely impossible. I must have seen wrong. A huge billowing formed in Uncle Chang's heart, disrupting all calmness he had. Not only was it Uncle Chong, but even the relatively senior guards and a few clansmen were all astounded when they saw the lady's face. Disbelief also overwhelmed them. When Ling Long, Yu Fengyin and Bai Yushuang saw the lady from within the crowd, they too narrowed their eyes abruptly. Afterwards they paled in shock, disbelief overwhelming them. Yun Fengyin was particularly affected. Her small body began to shake uncontrollably, while tears welled up in her eyes, pouring out like a surging fountain and flowing down her long face. As they fell, they were blown by the chilly wind, turning into droplets of crystal-like ice. With pouring tears, Yu Fengyin staggered out from the crowd, step by step. Her eyes towards the girl were filled with powerful yearning, and she said with a trembling voice, Yuer. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.